All right. How's everyone doing today? Happy Friday. And I got so behind I didn't have any of this stuff fixed before I started. Happy Friday. We made it to one more week. There we go. All right. So, what's everyone to today? I'm here. I made it late, but I'm here. I stayed up a little bit late last night playing Battletech, but I was actually going to go to bed by 11. But as I was closing things down, I saw this panel for Scrubs, which is it's a comedy. It's a comedy that's basically about doctors, being doctors, and it's an amazing program. And so there's this panel at this convention, and it was an hour long, so I just had to watch it. It was cool. It was very cool. So yeah, I got to bed about midnight because of that, but it was cool. It was cool. Have any of you watched Scrubs? This is still really loud. All right, I'll turn the mic down just a little bit. See how that works. Okay. Yep, so that was cool. I'm tired, but I'm doing good. My mic is super sensitive. Mixed blessing there. All right, so let's get started. I've got like two links here on COVID. They're actually pretty short, but there's some interesting information there. They've got something on advanced nuclear reactors and a bunch of environmental stuff towards the end if we get to that. All right, so I wonder if we can do this. But no. Okay, so COVID vaccines might stop a fourth wave in the US, but the rest of the world isn't so lucky. This was published today, actually. You wouldn't know it by following the news from the United States, where daily COVID-19 cases have fallen by 80% over the last 10 weeks, and where they continue to fall. You wouldn't know it by following the news from the United Kingdom either. There, daily cases have plummeted 90% over the same period. And you certainly wouldn't know it by following the news from Israel, where normal life has all but resumed. But despite the rosy views from select countries, the total number of COVID-19 cases worldwide is actually rising right now. In fact, after peaking on January 11th and dropping by half over the next month, the first overall decline of the pandemic, global cases reversed course in mid-February and began to rebound. Since then, new daily cases have climbed nearly 20% overall. In France, they're up more than 30%. In Brazil, they're up more than 50%. In Italy, they're up more than 80%. In India, they're up more than 110%. The dreaded fourth wave, in other words, has arrived, even if it hasn't arrived in the US. Well, it's not like we've really had a I don't think we've had a consistent number of cases. I mean, well, anyhow. These divergent trajectories offer up a troubling preview of the next phase of the pandemic, and they should trouble everyone, including residents of countries like the US, the UK, and Israel, where the virus finally seems to be retreating. Why? Because the single biggest difference between these recovering countries and the rest of the world is immunity, both the kind acquired from prior infection and, going forward, the kind acquired from vaccination. As more dangerous variants take over, hard-hit countries with higher rates of vaccination are mostly withstanding the onslaught. Hard-hit countries with lower rates of vaccination are mostly not. This suggests that until vaccination has ramped up everywhere, the virus will keep spreading, evolving, and threatening to dodge our defenses. Well, of course, because that's how it works. And that's not just someone else's problem. The more vaccines that rich countries buy up, and the slower that some of them vaccinate their own populations, the more likely it is the poorer, less protected countries will serve as breeding grounds for variants, prolonging the risk for everyone. Now, of course, that's kind of the way it's meant to be. It's that global systemic and structural racism, right? The West, predominantly white, gets all the good stuff, while the poorer countries get the sloppy seconds from all that. Hey, how you doing? Nope, I'm actually later than normal. I'm about 15 minutes later than normal. Oh, you're right. I am early. Holy crap, I thought I was late. Okay, how much time have I... Yes, you're right, I am early. Yeah. I thought I was apologizing for being late. I guess I'm not late. I'm just living my own little world, like normal. Yeah, so, I am early. Woo! Although not fully prepared. Actually, I got everything prepared fairly quickly, except for getting my titles updated here. So I don't know what the hell's going on here. Yeah, I stayed up late last night, till about midnight. I watched this panel from the cast from Scrubs. So I'm a little bit tired and stuff. So, yeah, I'm not totally with it. But I'm here. Yay! We're reading our first article here on COVID and the, quote, fourth wave. So we're just getting started. Oh, and I didn't add everybody. I got to do that. Hold on. Otherwise, Gaming Mind might miss this. All right, there we go. Yeah, so this is, again, pointing to the West, Europe and the United States and Canada and everything getting access to all of the COVID vaccines first because we are the richer countries. And the second and third world and emerging markets get the sloppy seconds, if you will, of the vaccine. So they end up having more people dying because, well, systemic and structural racism. And the classism inherent in capitalism. And of course, we've had like 3 variants. Well, the more infectious variant from Britain, and the other 2, one's from Brazil, and I think one is from India. I saw this video yesterday, and they're not, those 2 aren't more infectious, but they're just a different mutation. So the one that we really need to worry about is going to be from Britain currently, although those countries that have less access to vaccinations, better healthcare that isn't as good, there's definitely going to be, like they're talking about here, a larger potential for more mutations to happen in those areas. So honestly, it's in the West's interest to make sure that these other countries get vaccinated quickly so as to prevent that. Although if they did that, that reduces the profit made by the healthcare industries globally, and that's probably not a good thing. For them, at least. Consider the data. To date, more than 56% of Israel's population has received at least 1 vaccine dose. Cool. Thing is that exclusionary practice allows for varieties to develop which were bound on rich places. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that is the issue kind of that they are alluding to as well. That in these second and third world countries, that more mutations will happen, which will also eventually reach the United States as well, which is something that we have to worry about. I mean, I think the 3 variants that are out there have made it to the U.S. in some way. So yeah, it's definitely going to be an issue that we're going to have to deal with, if not directly, but indirectly as well. No other major country comes close. All told, Israeli researchers now estimate that more than 90% of residents over 60 have some degree of immunity through either vaccination or prior infection. Now, the immunity thing, we don't have obviously because we just started vaccinating people, that We don't know how well the vaccines will actually work, or even prior having had it before, because some people who have caught COVID have been reinfected with it. So having had it already probably really isn't a good protection. It might end up making, if you get sick again, might making the results less good. Yes, exactly. Good for Pfizer prospects. Exactly. This is great. This is great for corporate profit. Pandemics are great for money. Definitely. As a result, new hospitalizations among those older Israelis have fallen nearly 80% over the last 2 months. Okay. Even as the more contagious and deadly UK variant known as B117 has superseded all of the strains in the country, the fact that hospitalizations haven't declined as much among younger residents only proves the point. Fewer of them have been vaccinated. That should change soon. Meanwhile, Israel's latest lockdown ended 1 month ago, and the economy fully reopened last week. Holy crap. At a similar interval after the country's previous lockdown, the average number of people infected by one infectious individual is already at 1.1 and rising, indicating exponential spread. Anything over 1.0 means an outbreak is growing. Today, it's at 0.68. Okay, that's cool. Oh, and Magoki. So, I did end my affiliate status with Twitch, and I basically raising funds and support through my Patreon site. And because right now what I'm doing, this is kind of my first time. I am streaming through restream.io, which is sending my stream towards Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter all at the same time. Just trying to increase my potential for my audience. Neither the US nor the UK has vaccinated such a large share of its population, but they're doing a lot better than most countries, and it's showing. Nearly 38% of UK residents have received at least one dose so far, including more than 80% of those over 60. The UK is delaying booster shots for up to 12 weeks in order to initiate vaccination in as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. On average, COVID-19 deaths among seniors in England fell by 63% between February 19th and March 5th, compared with 53% among non-seniors. Sign that vaccination is starting to push numbers down, independent of other factors such as the country's recent lockdown. Oh, I actually started early, and but I thought I was starting late. I started. What's the thing? My timer says 18 minutes, and I just did the @everyone on Discord. So I thought I was scrambling this morning, so I thought I was late, and it turns out I was actually about 10 or 11 minutes early. So I was just really, really not with it. But I'm glad you found me. Glad you got here. I did at everybody about 5 minutes ago. That's another thing I forgot when scrambling to get started. Oh, yeah. Time change messes everything up. Yikes. Okay, see, where was I? At the same time, at least, get your shuffle. Yeah, I've been torn on that. I'm actually, Lydius, man, how you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to get that sooner than later, just by virtue of, social pressure, like you're doing, you big bully. My work also wants to start opening up too. We had that, my boss mentioned that this week. He wants to make sure everyone gets vaccinated and gets in the office. And, just covering a little more of COVID. I'm not overly keen on it, but with some of the stuff I'm seeing, I'm less hesitant to get my shot. And I'm going to have to do it anyhow, sooner than later. So I'm just going to have to start sucking it up and hope for the best. Hope for the best. Okay, let's see. At the same time, at least 73.7 million Americans have received one vaccine dose, one more than 22% of the population. More than 2/3 of seniors have initiated vaccination. Layer that atop America's existing foundation of natural immunity. It's not really a thing. Experts estimate that about 35% of the population has already been infected, and the virus starts to have a harder time finding new hosts. You got both your Moderna ones. You get used to the vestigial tail. I was wondering about that. I thought I saw an article about that. Yeah, cool. And I covered the AstraZeneca one and some of the issues they're having with blood clotting. So I'm hoping that if I do get it, I can get the Moderna one. So, I'd rather have a vestigial tail than a blood clot. So, yeah. And did you get yours through the hard delay? Exactly. Where'd you get yours, Elidius? Did you get it through the tribe? I assume so. Yeah. You through work. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and we covered this last week, I think, that it's like the blood clot issues, it's actually out of 17 million for the AstraZeneca one was like 30 people or something like that. So it is a very small amount of people having a reaction, and they said it was actually less than the normal average. So yeah. All right. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. This explains why over the last 2 weeks, U.S. cases have still fallen by 15% and hospitalizations have still fallen by 23%, even as B117 is spreading rapidly and is expected to account for more than half of all U.S. infections before the end of the month, even as reopening accelerates. Okay, yeah. So this, I think, is going to end up being an issue. Of course, B117 is the more infectious strain of COVID that came from Britain. Now they're saying here that they think more than half of the infections are going to be from this more infectious strain. And the question is going to be is how well will our vaccines work at reducing that? I think the primary goal for these vaccines wasn't necessarily to directly to reduce how we get infected by other strains, but more to reduce how damaging the infections really are. Which isn't to say the U.S. has vanquished its variants. In recent days, nationwide cases have plateaued around 55,000. While cases continue to fall in most states, they're starting to flatten or even creep up in much of the Northwest and Mid-Atlantic and parts of the upper Midwest. Okay, that's interesting. Michigan may be the most unsettling example. Their cases are up 84% on average. Over the last 2 weeks, hospitalizations are up 31%. Perhaps not coincidentally, the Great Lakes state is second only to Florida in the number of B117 cases detected among residents. So that's interesting. Why is that? Without the warm weather yet, that makes outdoor gathering so much easier in America's spring break capital. Yeah, and I saw that. I don't have an article on that, and I'm not really happy about that. The CDC relaxing school guidelines. Children don't get as sick, but are quite contagious, apparently. Right, and I think what the studies have shown, it's been a while since I've covered anything on this, that children, if they do catch it, they catch it at the same rate as adults, but they tend to be asymptomatic or have very mild symptoms. But also the small amount of children end up being the super spreaders. Obviously everyone loves kids, and so, they end up getting a whole bunch of people sick. That small minority of kids, which are super spreaders, get a crap load of people sick. So, yeah, it's the CDC said that they're relaxing their guidelines on schooling, and they said they could reduce the space between children down to 3 feet instead of 6 feet, which doesn't make any actual sense. So I'm not sure. If someone has an article on that explaining why, I would love to go over that. We have one more article here on COVID that we'll go over. So, yeah. Similarly, New York City's 7-day average rate of positive test results has not dipped below 6% in months. The likely result, officials said this week, of a local variant that is accounting for a growing share of new cases in the city. Oh, so there's a new variant just in New York? . 'Cause, 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 'c Maybe we'll take a look at this one. Overall, new cases per capita in New York and New Jersey are at least double the national average right now, and the plateauing rates in nearby Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut are causing concern. Ultimately, however, experts expect the downward pressure from America's accelerating vaccination effort, which is starting to expand ahead of schedule, beyond the initial priority groups, even as it shields vulnerable seniors from hospitalization and death and protects frontline workers from infection and transmission, to temper and finally suppress most of the upward pressure attributed to variants. In short, the U.S. might see some leveling off due to its final descent out of the pandemic, but with each passing day of vaccination, now averaging 2.5 million doses every 24 hours, a full-blown fourth wave looks less and less likely. Sadly, that's not the case elsewhere. All right, just a moment. This is still loud in my ears. As B117 spreads throughout Europe, the European Union cases have shot up 52% over the last month. In many countries, Estonia, Hungary, Poland, Sweden, France, Italy, Austria, even Germany, the curve is sloping steeply upward. Yeah, that's exactly right, Lydius. That's exactly right. Spring break in Florida will make the fourth wave, and that's pretty much what my fear is. There's so many people who don't give a fuck about any of this. Rutko, man, how you doing? Welcome. Yeah, that Florida is going to be people from all around the country going there. They're going to not be social distancing, not be masking, and they're going to end up getting sick and bringing it back all across the rest of the country. Yeah, that's exactly right. And Florida has been kind of a cesspool anyhow for COVID. So yeah, this is going to be interesting in the next few weeks following spring break. It's going to be it'll take just like a week or two of spring break, and then it'll take about 2 weeks for those to set in. So probably about 2 weeks after spring break, we'll start seeing some more infections. You're on reserve list for the vaccine. There's about 13% rate of people who don't attend. So right now, so hopefully I'll get one soon. Okay, good to hear that. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to get that sooner than later. Yeah. Well, good. I hope you get it soon, and I hope everything turns out okay. Because my friend Olidius here just got a vestigial tail from his Moderna one, so hopefully you'll get maybe something less than that. Oh, okay. All right, we'll take a look at that. Over here. Getting the Pfizer one? He had the Moderna one, so you might be okay. Ricky, how you doing, man? Welcome. You're not taking it? Why aren't you taking it? I've been kind of against it. Like I wrote this huge thing. My family, some of our friends asked about it. Didn't have any issues. Okay, cool. Good to hear. Yeah, I wrote. You don't trust them? Yeah, it's for me. And I wrote this huge teardown of a video. By a right winger. But ultimately, the vaccines themselves aren't approved. They're on emergency use authorization, which is not the same thing. So they're still in the, quote, testing phases, making me achy, kind of buzzy. Have you had your first one or second one? Typically, the largest number of reactions happen after the second one. The second, yeah. That's when you tend to get most of it out of most of the symptoms from it. But it should go away fairly quickly, hopefully. It's to be expected. Yeah, we were talking about this earlier, Ricky. My friend Elidius up there got his. He's been doing okay, except for the vestigial tail. And I know I'm gonna have to get it. Sputnik one? What's that? What's the Sputnik one? I'm probably gonna have to get mine sooner than later because my work is trying to open up. Because people are getting vaccines, and I know the wife is going to start pressuring me for it because, we want to get back to life as normal, but that's not going to happen. Anyhow, next day after my second Moderna one, every place I have had a surgery on joints, I had severe arthritis in those areas. I felt achy and had small fever and a headache that lasted 2 days. Oh, okay. So you had some stuff. Okay. Only 2 days. Okay. All right. So that's not so bad. 2 days. if you've got sick time, that, might be something that you might want to do is if once you get your second shot to just go ahead and take the next 2 or 3 days off and then not worry about it. Okay, yeah. Okay, so 2 days. Yeah, 2 to 3 days, you should be okay after that. I've seen a few posts on Facebook that, or on Twitter talking about it. It lasts about, 2 days or something like that, yeah. Fortunately, I have a crap load of sick time saved up, so I could easily get my shot and take a few days off and not have to worry about it. Just stay home and go, oh, and then come back to work just fine. All right. As B117 spreads through the European Union, cases have shot up 52% over the last month. In many countries, Estonia, Hungary, Poland, Sweden, France, Italy, Austria, even Germany, the curve is sloping steeply upward, yet none of these nations has managed to administer at least one dose to more than 15% of its population. Really? And most of them are doing far worse, with Austria at 9.3%, Sweden at 8.3%, Germany at 8.2%, Italy at 8.2%, France at 8.2%, the EU as a whole at 8.1%, and Poland at 7.9%. Oh, wow. Oh, so the Sputnik vaccine? If you have a link on it, throw it in here. I haven't heard anything about it. I wonder why it's spiking cough when we open school. Yeah, exactly. I'm not overly keen on that. Opening up schools again, that's just really not happy about that. %? Holy crap. That's huge. Okay, we'll go over that. That's pretty cool. So I think most of the vaccines, well, the big 2 or 3, I think they're like 80% effective. I don't think any of them have reached quite that high. But I'm not sure on that. If someone has an article on that too, we can check that out. Because I thought it was like 80 some percent. So this one being 92 is pretty huge. All right, we'll take a look at that too when both my daughters have been in person school for months and they have been fine. Yeah, of course, because the infection rate is fairly low, but at some point, someone's going to get sick and then it's going to spread, and then it's just, well, kids tend to be asymptomatic, but still, there's people who are related to those kids that can end up getting sick, and of course, the teachers. I mean, the school, our school system, they shifted to, they canceled like in person for a while because a bunch of people got infected. They want to start producing Sputnik in Germany, which is awesome. Okay, cool. The big secret about the Sputnik vaccine is that it's slightly different. Oh, slightly different the second time. Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah, we'll have to read on that. I have not heard about it. On Thursday, Dr. Hans Kluge, the World Health Organization's regional director for Europe, told reporters that Europe's level of vaccination is too low to slow transmission. In Central Europe, the Balkans, and the Baltic states, he added, new cases, hospitalizations, and deaths are now among the highest in the world. The recent suspension of the AstraZeneca vaccine and the hesitancy it might stir up even now that Europe's drug regulator has deemed it safe and effective won't help matters. Okay, yeah, I covered this last week. Oh, okay. This is cool. Oh, so they are 90s. Oh, okay. So it's just the AstraZeneca one which isn't so effective. Oh. Okay. All right. Cool. All right then. I was wrong. So yeah, not taking the AstraZeneca one seems like the thing to do here. Yeah, these two are both mRNA. All 3 of these were mRNA, I thought. Interesting. Seems the EU was too late and offered too low for the vaccines. That is why we are behind. Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll have to read about the Sputnik one and see how it's different from the others. So it uses viral vector. Okay, cool. All right, cool. Thanks for sharing that. The recent suspension. Okay, yep. Most of the rest of the world trails even further behind. In Brazil, where again cases have risen more than 50% over the last month, just 5.1% of the population has received at least one vaccine dose. In India, where cases have climbed more than 110%, just 2.2% of the population has received one dose. Morocco is the only African country to have administered at least one shot to more than 5% of its population, and no country in Asia or Oceania has even approached that number. Started with a couple countries, but later the EU wanted to take that over. The Pfizer vaccines needs to be stored at -70. It's also kind of yucks. Yeah, that's one of the big complaints I've seen about that. Where is it? Where did I put it? There we go. Okay, so it's just the Pfizer one that has that issue. -20, regular fridge. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a big deal. A big annoyance. So perhaps that temperature could make it much more difficult for maybe second and third world countries and emerging markets to actually take this one. Oh, and we also read this article a few weeks ago that the vaccine makers are really trying to hit the second and third world countries hard with, well, if you don't give us a whole bunch of stuff, that we're not going to give you our vaccines. I think I have that in here. Let me go ahead and let's see if I have this in here. I don't think I put it in there. Yeah, I don't think it's in there. It's deployed to wipe out the rest of the world so we can steal the resources. Yeah, no, that isn't necessarily a joke. I mean, that's a part of the systemic and structural racism inherent to capitalism, that the West, being primarily white, is effectively raping the rest of the world. We've been raping Africa and Asia for, well, centuries now. It's not so much a joke as it is actually true. It's a part of that systemic and structural violence inherent to the system. Cuba and Vietnam are a big hope in a free vaccine. Okay, that would be cool. We read that article a few weeks ago that Sweden, I think it was Sweden, had a vaccine created in 2019. I'm not sure how that's a thing, so that's interesting. And they offered it to the biotech companies and they said no. Well, why did they say no? Because obviously if they don't have a patent, it's harder for them to take all the money from, make as much money off a monopoly. And the big issue, and what we also read from that article, is that instead of the government developing the vaccine freely for everyone, they decided to go the capitalist route, and that's a huge problem. They could have made this vaccine themselves through the government and then distribute it that way. Kind of hoping closer than that to how many billions of tons of minerals and billions of feet of timber was removed from trees. Oh yeah, yes, exactly. And the indigenous populations too. That's exactly right. It's not just the genocide and the raping of the indigenous populations. That is also a part of it, right? If you take that a step back to a few hundred years, the entire exploration of the West, Europe into the rest of the world was all about that same thing, right? The indigenous populations getting slaughtered, genocided. The United States is built upon genocide and racism. So yeah, you're exactly right. Magoki. If you don't give third world countries our vaccines, then you will be harvesting mutants, for decades to come. Yeah, that's kind of what they said before. Sputnik 5, a 12 out of 10. Okay. Worm, how you doing, man? Welcome, welcome. Yeah, we've got one article on that. We'll go over that. Good to see you, man. Got a nice, lively group today. This is kind of cool. All right, vaccination, of course, this isn't the only reason COVID-19 is hitting some places harder than others right now, but it is the main reason, along with natural immunity, why some places are unlikely to experience a true fourth wave of infection, and why even a fourth wave in other places may not be the last. The contours of a new world split between vaccine haves and have-nots is already taking shape. For some, life as normal is on the horizon. For others, the crisis will continue with all its disruptions and dangers. Meanwhile, the virus will continue to mutate as long as it has somewhere to spread. By the end of May, the U.S. will have received about 500 million doses of vaccine, enough to fully immunize every adult in the country. Oh yeah, because we have like 320 million. All told, the White House has reserved more than 1.2 billion doses, enough to vaccinate the entire U.S. population twice over, and then some. Predictably, most wealthy countries have placed similar orders. Most developing countries have not. And so Europe doesn't just owe itself a more difficult rollout. It owes the world, too, with a more equitable distribution of doses to follow. Until then, the waves will continue. And for most, the pandemic will not end. There you go. It's free here, but it is safe. But is it safe? Yeah, that's the thing. It should be free, obviously. But the safety is, that's been my only honest concern with taking vaccines. I support vaccines. They're an amazing technology. Just here, you know, when we've got the vaccines aren't fully tested, I'm a bit concerned about that. But with some of the stuff you guys are sharing here, it looks like it's going to be okay. Oh my God, Elias, how you doing, man? I am not an anti-vaxxer. Fuck you. I should get one. It'd be just fun to wear one on stream and see people freak out. All right, so the next one. Got a bunch of stuff here that share. These are the first two that I had that I had found. This one's pretty short, but it's kind of interesting, potentially interesting-ish. Actually, let me go ahead and change my title. Hey, so how some people immediately accuse people of anti-vax when they're even... Yeah, there's that reactionary response. Yes. Okay, so for those of you who are new, I know Elidius, you're not here all that often. Anholix is from Sweden, and within the more globalized frame of left and right, he's fairly conservative for a Swedish person, which basically puts him as a Democrat, basically a standard Democrat here, because our Democrats are, well, conservative. So what's interesting is him from being from Sweden, our values are very much the same, very, very similar, but yet the way we implement things is definitely a little bit different. So after that, you're still alive. Okay, that's good. Yeah, my friend Lydia's here. He had both of his, and from Moderna. And he said like for 2 days after the second one, Sweden? I must be from Brazil. Sweden? You're from Sweden, right? Netherlands. No. You're from the Netherlands, right? Oh my God, I'm sorry. There we go, Netherlands. You guys, you're all the same over there. Seriously. Not to be completely, Netherlands. Yeah, my camera doesn't save its settings, and it looks pretty washed out today. It's just one big country, Europe. Oh, well, yes, exactly. I knew I was going to end up screwing that up again. I'm an American, and my geography isn't all that good. But like in my post, when I talk about how a resource-based economy might come into being, American, yes, that's one of the big problems. The Christian dominionism crap. I posit that if one of the ways a resource-based economy might come into being is if the Nordic countries basically come together and into one union, something called the Nordic Union. That might be one of the ways, because they have the values, the eco-humanistic values. So for me, the Nordic countries are basically the same. They're different, obviously, culture and laws, but there's a lot of values and law similarity between it. I hate the self-hate about geography in the U.S. I honestly think there's a few places where people have good geographical knowledges. I read a nice book about my CNIL. So I am cultured. What do you mean CNIL? All those Americans are also the same. Brazil. well, that's a little bit different. I mean, it's a little bit different, just by virtue of the sheer size and the cultural variation between there. No, we have the point to 20 countries. Okay, that's fair. Yep. I want to include the third world where the materials come from in that union. Yeah, well, I kind of play it up, honestly, the geography thing, just because it's kind of, it's playing to the stereotype of, Oh, I have no idea what that is. What is that? Oh, is that some of your World War II stuff? We won't see a rap battle between Sleepy Joe and Putin. That would be funny. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. You're big into that sort of stuff, so it's World War II. Gotcha. Cool. All right, long-term symptoms are vanishing from some vaccinated patients, and we don't know why. All right. This is from the 18th, so this is yesterday. A woman who had long COVID said her symptoms were gone 36 hours after getting her second dose of COVID vaccine, according to the Washington Post. Now, this I think we'll also read. This is kind of a big deal because long-term COVID is fucking devastating. It's basically getting kind of the worst of, not necessarily the worst, but being sick and just destroyed all the time, months and months and months after you're technically test negative for COVID. If getting the vaccines can help these people get their lives back, this could be huge, because doctors don't have a fucking clue what's happening with people who have long-term COVID. Ariana Eisenberg, 34, said she experienced muscle pains, insomnia, fatigue, and brain fog for 8 months after getting sick. These symptoms are typical of what has become known as long COVID. They can't get disability because they don't have a disease that they can say that they can label as is causing it. Yes, exactly right. Yes, exactly. Yep. I think we also had an island in the U.S. It was called New Amsterdam. You think you sold it? Oh, interesting. Or maybe we just took it from you because, U.S. imperialism and all that stuff. If you can find a link on it, go ahead and throw it in here. We sold it? Okay. Not as interesting then, but thank you. But 36 hours after receiving a second dose of COVID-19 vaccine, her symptoms were gone, the Post reported. Eisenberg's story is one of several describing a similar effect. For a bag of pot? Really? That'd be hilarious. The Philadelphia Inquirer and the Huffington Post also reported on people for whom long COVID symptoms improved after vaccination. Now, so first one said went away. These several said they improved. Daniel Griffith, an infectious disease clinician and researcher at Columbia University, told The Verge on March 2nd that around a third of his long COVID patients reported that they were feeling better after the vaccine. In a YouTube video, Gez Medinger, a science journalist who reports on long COVID, did a survey of 473 long haulers among support groups on Facebook. The Verge reported around a third of whom saw their symptoms improve after vaccination. Okay, so here it says they improved, which is good. I can thank the Netherlands. After World War II, they sent my grandfather humanitarian aid to the Soviet Union from the 1945 until... Okay, cool. Cool. Great-grandfather. Okay. One small study from the UK's University of Bristol, which has not been peer-reviewed, looked at giving vaccines to people with long COVID-19 symptoms, per the Washington Post report. So the scientists gave the vaccine to 44 COVID long haulers and compared their reaction to a group of long haulers who didn't get the vaccine. They reported that those who had received the vaccine had a small overall improvement in long COVID symptoms. However, the authors said that this could be down to the placebo effect. Yeah, and this is kind of what my concern is. I think I've read most of this article already. Small overall improvement could just be placebo effect. However, those who have significant improvement, maybe it has made a difference. It's just one of a series of puzzling reports surrounding long COVID. On March 3rd, Kaiser Health News reported that a 15-year-old dancer developed a COPD, a disease which is usually seen in older people, after contracting COVID-19 last summer. Oh, wow. As reported by insiders Araya Bendix, scientists also cannot explain why most people who develop long COVID are women, although some scientists think that it could be because women tend to mount stronger immune responses than men. USA! USA! Recovery clinics for long COVID patients have been opening up, insiders Sophia Ankel reported. But the condition is still not well understood. The U.S. National Institutes of Health has been given over $1 billion by Congress to investigate long COVID. Yeah, I think this is going to be, we need to put some money into this to figure out why the hell long COVID is a thing and what we can do about it. I think if we can help crack that this may lead to a better understanding of how COVID actually does what it does and maybe give us a better way to combat it. All right, so there you go. Potential effects of COVID vaccines on long-term COVID people. And also, I think one of the... We should definitely have the American flag as a Twitch emote. No. No, I am specifically against nationalism. And I've thought, like, if I were to run for office, which I am, but if I were running for a larger, like state or federal, especially a federal office, that, people get criticized if you do not wear an American flag pin. Specifically, Obama got criticized for that. And I'm like, no, I'll never, ever wear an American flag pin. If I do wear a pin, it will be one of the world. It'll be a globe. And I've been considering actually getting one just for that sort of a thing. It'll be the Earth. Because nationalism is one of the major diseases that we have as a civilization. So just no, not happening. All right, so how long is this one? This one's not too long. Actually, we'll wait on this one a little bit. Let's go back over here. Or the pin of the universe. I think they're still building the pin. Well, at some point, once we actually get people in space, like outpost somewhere, I think that's probably where I would have to go. And I've often actually thought of my policies from that kind of standpoint. Like when you look at my 8 philosophical pillars for peace, I kind of do say humanity in here, but once we actually encounter aliens, I'm going to have to change this to something else. And then, yes, also changing from a pin of the of the globe to a pin of the universe. Yep. Okay, so what is this? All right, let's check out this is from the BBC News. This is from February 2nd. So this is a little while ago. It's on the Russia's Sputnik 5 vaccine has 92% efficacy in trial. All right. The freedom cloth can't freedom if you don't wear it. Yes, I have an article on this. Oh my God. The freedom, what is it? The special song? I saw this meme go through. She lived in the village where I lived. Now that I'm talking about the universe, I kissed the most beautiful girl. Oh, really? Oh, nice. I have a blog post kind of tearing apart this meme. If you don't stand for the special song, the magic sky cloth won't freedom. Yeah, my mother actually unfollowed me quite a while ago. Angela Visser, Miss Universe. Oh, okay, you're just being fancy. Oh, look at that. Well, aren't you special? You get everything over there, dude. You're just rubbing in how amazing your life is over there. That's just rude. Just super rude. But congratulations. All right, Russia's Sputnik 5 coronavirus vaccine gives around 92% protection against COVID-19. Late-stage trial results published in The Lancet reveal. Okay, so this is in The Lancet even. Okay. It has also been deemed to be safe and offer complete protection against hospitalization and death. The vaccine was initially met with some controversy after being rolled out before the final trial data had been released. Well, that's kind of what we're doing as well with the emergency use authorization, right? But scientists said its benefit has now been demonstrated. It joins the rank of proven vaccines along Pfizer, Oxford, AstraZeneca, Moderna, and Janssen. The Sputnik vaccine works in a similar way to the Oxford AstraZeneca jab developed in the UK and the Janssen vaccine developed in Belgium. It uses a cold-type virus engineered to be harmless as a carrier to deliver a small fragment of the coronavirus to the body. She's over 50 now. Oh. Oh, okay. Yeah, so Anaholic says, you're close to my age. You're either slightly older than I am or slightly younger than I am, aren't you? I think you're slightly older. Right? Yeah, if she's over 50, you're a little bit older than I am. I want to say 56 if I remember correctly. Okay, so you're 3 years older. Okay, I was in 73. November of 73. Okay, so you are 50. Born in 66, so she's 64 now. Oh, okay, okay. Oh, wow. 16-year difference there. Nice. Good on ya. $54. Bad with math. I know what that's like. Okay, 54. So yeah, you're 7 years older than I am. Gen X? You are, okay. Yeah, I don't know what gen I am. Those make no sense to me. On the cheek? Okay, all right. So that's not so cool then. But it's something. Good for you though. Good for you. Safely exposing the body to part of the virus's genetic code in this way allows it to recognize a threat and learn to fight it off without risking becoming ill. After being vaccinated, the body starts to produce antibodies specially tailored to the coronavirus. This means the immune system is primed to fight the coronavirus when it encounters it for real. It can be stored at temperatures between 2 and 8 degrees Celsius. The standard fridge is 3 to 5 degrees Celsius. Okay, making it easy to transport and store. You're 45, best generation? Truth. Different second dose. But unlike other similar vaccines, the Sputnik jab uses two slightly different versions of the vaccine for the first and second dose, given 21 days apart. The idea is that using two different formulas boosts boosts the immune system even more than using the same version twice and may give longer lasting protection. I wonder what the difference is between the two. I mean, if they use two different variants of the two different mutations in there, or what? As well as proving effective, it was also safe with no serious reactions linked to the vaccine during the trial. Some side effects to a vaccine are expected, but these are usually mild, including sore arm, tiredness, and a bit of temperature. Okay, nothing unusual there. And there were no deaths or serious illnesses in the vaccinated group linked to the jab. Okay, well that's pretty big. As well as Russia, the vaccine is being used in a number of other places: Argentina, Palestinian territories, Venezuela, Hungary, the United Arab Emirates, Iran. In a comment published alongside the Lancet paper, Professors Ian Jones and Polly Royce said the development of the Sputnik V vaccine has been criticized for unseemly haste, corner cutting, and an absence of transparency. Okay. But the outcome reported here is clear, and the scientific principles of vaccination is demonstrated, which means another vaccine can now join the fight to reduce the incidence of COVID-19. Now, they didn't go into what the criticisms and all this stuff was. There's not even a link to it. They pointed out that the vaccine has good effect in all age groups and reduced the seriousness of the disease after one dose. This was particularly encouraging while the supply of vaccine is limited, they added. The authors of the Lancet paper pointed out the analysis only included symptomatic cases of COVID. Okay, so it didn't deal with asymptomatic people. Okay. And more work would need to be done to understand whether it stops even asymptomatic cases and prevents the virus from being passed by vaccinated people. Second one is miniature Putin's using syringes of Novichok on the COVID virus. Yes, okay. Dr. Julian Tang, a clinical virologist at the University of Leicester, said despite the early misgivings about the way this Russian Sputnik V vaccine was rolled out more widely, ahead of sufficient phase 3 trial data, this approach has been justified to some extent now. Such pandemic-related vaccine rollout compromises have, to be fair, been adopted in the UK vaccination program also, with the extended intervals between the first and second doses. So we should be more careful about being overly critical about other countries' vaccine designs. Interesting. All right, so what was this? The New York Times. Oh, this is. Can't remember what we were looking at here. All right, so let's jump over to this one. All right, so this is about the school opening advice from the CDC, updated today. Revised physical distancing recommendations to reflect at least 3 feet between students and classrooms and provide clearer guidance when a greater distance, such as 6 feet, is recommended. Clarified that ventilation is a component of strategies to clean and maintain healthy facilities. Removed recommendations for physical barriers. Clarified the role of community transmission levels in decision-making. Added guidance on interventions when clusters occur. Okay. So I think, all right, I won't go through this. It's been shared. I'll go ahead and share this again. If you guys want to watch it, or read this. I'll go ahead and read this later. All right, move on from there. All right, so we'll go to this one. Actually, let's move on from COVID just to get into something different. And plenty of that for today. That's cool. All right, so here we go. Next. Now, this one I found interesting. I was a bit almost shocked to read this, actually. Not that I'm a nuclear fan, because I'm not. Because what I typically hear from people who advocate for it is that the newer designs are safer, although the advanced nuclear reactors might be a different sort of genre of reactors. But here, advanced nuclear reactors no safer than conventional nuclear plants, says Science Group. And this is from Reuters, and this is from a few days ago. A new generation of so-called advanced nuclear power reactors that Washington believes could help fight climate change often present greater proliferation risks than conventional nuclear power, a science advocacy group said on Thursday. President Joe Biden, a Democrat, has made curbing climate change a priority and has supported research and development for advanced nuclear technologies, because fuck him. You know, those of you who come here often know that I'm very critical of Joe Biden for many, many reasons, and I've torn apart and his climate policies because they're kind of laughable, frankly. And support for nuclear power is one of those reasons. The reactors are also popular with many Republicans, of course. Last October, the month before Biden was elected, the U.S. Department of Energy awarded $80 million each to TerraPower LLC and X Energy to build reactors it said would be operational in 7 years. Exactly, 7 fucking years. How much sustainable energy could we put out for $80 million? And we could be doing... Luxie, how you doing? Welcome. Yeah, we did like through 3 or 4 different links for COVID, and now we're doing something on nuclear reactors. How you doing today? Yeah, so like I was talking about yesterday, I was on for just a little bit yesterday, that instead of nuclear reactors, we need to be doing geothermal, and tidal as one of the most potent baseload forms of energy generation. Then go to, you know, wind and solar for intermittent energy generation. Playing some Crusader Kings 3, might switch to Company of Heroes later. Yeah, I generally don't get a chance to play any games until in the evening, like after the wife goes to bed. I played BattleTech last night for just a little bit, but that's pretty much it. I'm doing okay. I thought I had a late start today, but it turned out I was actually early. I was actually freaking out because I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna be late, but I actually wasn't late. So that was kind of fun. Yeah, so I'm doing okay. I'm here. I'm awake. I'm doing stuff. Woo! Yeah, I got up at 10:30? I got up about 9:30, and it usually takes me like an hour for my brain to wake up, and then I took my shower, and then I was scrambling to get started. Here we are switching to my favorite energy source. Oh, god damn it. Yeah, so I'm covering this. This is I'll go ahead and share it again for you, so you know what we're covering here. Mother Mary, how you doing? How you doing, Mary? Welcome. How you doing today? Advanced reactors are generally far smaller than conventional reactors and are cooled with materials such as molten salt instead of with water. Backers say they are safer, and some can use nuclear waste as fuel. The technologies are certainly different from current reactors, but it is not at all clear they are better, said Edwin Lyman, Director of Nuclear Power Safety at the Union of Concerned Scientists. Oh, getting your last shot today? Yeah, we covered a whole bunch of COVID vaccine stuff today. When can I get one in my car? Well, that would be cool. That would be actually cool. If you could get nuclear down to that small, that would be amazing. But of course, I would rather get fusion figured out and go that way, because that would be amazing. Or even. Oh yeah. Just some interesting stuff going on. Or even getting black holes, Kugel blitzes, getting artificial black holes created to create, instead of a nuclear reactor, get a black hole based reactor. That would be cool. Super cool. In many cases, they are worse with regard to safety and the potential for severe accidents and potential nuclear proliferation, said Lyman, author of the report UCS released Thursday called Advanced Isn't Always Better. Nuclear reactors generate virtually emissions-free power, which means conventional ones, at least, will play a role in efforts to decarbonize the economy by 2050, a goal of the Biden administration, which is fucking stupid. Several of the 94 U.S. conventional nuclear plants are shutting down due to high safety costs and competition from natural wind and solar energy. Don't forget to get fuel every 100 light years. Yeah, exactly. The all those, I think, containment failures. That's exactly my issue. That if anything ever goes wrong, you've got a dead zone that's just filled with radioactivity, and that's why, as you guys may remember, I was on a nuclear reactor. During the Navy, that was my job. I was a nuclear reactor operator. So I'm not really a big fan of it. Look at the ionosphere got shook just from fertilizer in Syria. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw an article on that. I did not read it. We can go over that. I'm kind of curious what happened from that. If you have an article on that, go and share it. I want to take a look at that. Oh, I know. We've covered articles on that in here. It's been difficult. I mean, obviously we haven't solved it yet, but we actually watched a video a few months ago about this Indian lady who's talking about it. When you did something wrong, you had to clean the insides with your toothbrush. Is that would be amazing. Painful. Yeah, we watched a video with this lady she was Indian. I don't know what organization she was with, but she was kind of going through with all of the issues that fusion. Oh, yeah. Well, we had to do that when I was in the Navy. I don't think we necessarily used a toothbrush, but we actually had to go inside the reactor compartment, not the vessel itself. We had to go inside the reactor compartment and clean that out, every time we shut down for a long period of time. Yeah, I've been in one. It's hot. Had dosimeters and everything. So we watched a video talking about the issues, the many, many issues with creating fusion and stuff like that. So yeah, it's super. Obviously, we haven't cracked the code on it yet, and it's been very difficult to do. And hopefully someday we do figure it out, because if we do get fusion, that will radically change everything. It opens up the doors for so many things. Nuclear reactors generate virtually emission-free power, which means conventional ones at least will play. Okay, below. That has helped spark initial funding for a new generation of reactors, which is ridiculous. Right. That's exactly one of the big things that it opens it up for, as space travel. Well, it's not. Free energy forever. I mean, it's not. They still have to add. They still have to add stuff to it to keep it going, I think, right? Because they still have to have material there for the reactions to take place. And I think it's different, but also similar to black holes. Black holes, if you operate a reactor based off black holes, you still have to add stuff like a kilogram per year or something like that. But yeah, the amount you have to add is very small, and it's a small price to pay for a shitload of energy. And space travel will be a huge part of that. Need a D2? What's a D2? An R2D2? Isotope. Oh, deuterium. Gotcha. Deuterium, right? Heavy? No, is that right, deuterium? Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's hard to find it here, but it's much easier to find it in space. Yeah, there's different ways of doing fusion, and deuterium is one of those definite ways. I don't remember what the other ways are, but there's a bunch. That one video we went over talked about the different ways. It might be in Discord if you want to look for it there under probably environment and sustainability. But fuel for many of those reactors would have to be enriched at a much higher rate than conventional fuel, meaning the fuel supply chain could be an attractive target for militants looking to create crude nuclear weapon. The report here said. Also, nuclear waste from today's reactors would have to be reprocessed to make fuel. That technique has not been in practice in the United States for decades because of proliferation and cost concerns. Other advanced reactors emit large amounts of radioactive gases, a potentially problematic waste stream. Yeah, and this is always a problem. I think it's yeah, but it's not in high amounts, which is the deuterium. Getting it out is difficult. Okay, natural abundance in Earth's oceans. Yes, 0.02%, not a lot. No, you don't swim in deuterium. You don't? It's in the water? Right? It's even smaller amount in the Earth's crust. Or is that, no, it's just in the Earth overall. Sure, we can swim in it. Yes, the waste problem with nuclear reactors is a huge problem. But there is enough to keep it going, I guess. Yeah, if they spent the time to filter it out, I mean, you could eventually get a large amount of it. Well, very large amount of it. Enough of it to keep several fusion reactors going, I bet. But if we were able to do that, get a fusion reactor in space, we could get a whole lot more deuterium out there. Lyman said advanced nuclear development funds would be better spent on bolstering conventional nuclear plants from the risks of earthquakes and climate change, such as flooding. Okay, that's fair. The report recommended that the Department of Energy suspend its advanced reactor demonstration program until the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the NRC, requires prototype testing before reactors can be licensed for commercial use. Yeah, oh, come on. Seriously, people. The Department of Energy did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Brett Rampel, director of nuclear innovation at Clean Air Task Force, a nonprofit that supports advanced nuclear to fight climate change and cut harmful emissions, said the report's conclusions were not based on rigorous assessment of the industry. Rampel said if the Department of Energy acted on the recommendation, it would essentially cease innovation in nuclear energy today. Interesting. All right, so there you go. You wanted that credit card number? Where? Advertising somewhere? So this is from Reason.com. This is from today. They are a libertarian site, so you kind of have to be careful of what you find there. Just read it knowing that that is their the context from which they frame things. But I read this. This is pretty interesting. White House sanctions staffers over past marijuana use. Oh, okay. I apologize. Well, you can play it back, once we're done here, and then get the card. Thank God for replays. All right. FTC commissioner on antitrust. Okay, that's. Blah, blah, blah. Read the room. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris entered the White House promising to not be the same old cops about cannabis. Biden has reluctantly embraced decriminalizing marijuana, the Washington Post reported in January, and Harris has for several years been working to outrun her past drug warrior ways. True to this form, the Biden administration reportedly told potential staffers that past use of recreational marijuana would not necessarily disqualify them from White House jobs. You're going to do it for Kamala? Exactly. That's the level of hypocrisy that's available here. But now, dozens of White House staffers have been suspended, asked to resign, or placed in a remote work program due to past marijuana use. The Daily Beast reports. The move is frustrating staffers who were pleased by the initial indications from the Biden administration that recreational use of cannabis would not be immediately disqualifying for would-be personnel, according to 3 people familiar with the situation. The zero-tolerance policy even applies to people who only partook in states where recreational marijuana is legal, the Beast says. Sources familiar with the matter also said a number of young staffers were either put on probation or canned because they revealed past marijuana use in an official document they filled out as a part of the lengthy background check for a position in the Biden White House. A White House spokesperson told the Beast this decision was made following intensive consultation with career security officials and will effectively protect our national security while modernizing policies to ensure that talented and otherwise well-qualified applicants with limited marijuana use will not be barred from serving the American people. This is a bunch of just fucking bullshit. They're saying nothing so that they can basically get people to move on. And this is just ridiculous. We know Democrats are fucking garbage, as is Kamala and Biden, but this is, it's to be expected from them, I guess. Such a person would use it while in the country. What's the very first part is confusing. If such a person would use it while in a country. Yeah, I am sure that they would be similarly dealt with through the Biden administration. They would be either kicked out, forced to resign, or put into a crappy position. Yeah, they won't care. It's this. They say one thing like typical Democrats do, and then they talk left during. They talk progressive, talk leftist during the campaigning, but once they get in office, they're back to being standard, moderate Republicans from that point out. The move itself and the laughably pompous rationale given, we must fire former cannabis users to protect national security, doesn't bode well for expectations that the Biden-Harris administration might help bring more sanity to our nation's drug laws. But then the person would not have. Well, right, but you're exactly right. But also, as they say here, that people were being punished for having taken marijuana in states where it was also legal. Although it is still illegal on the federal level, so maybe that's kind of what you're getting to. But then, if you're going from that route, then it's still illegal here in the United States, and that's still kind of the policy. So they would probably still, impose it on you anyhow, even though it was legal there. Like there was a complaint that the NSA and the CIA couldn't find a lot of computer people because marijuana use was so high amongst hackers and people of that nature. Just like a lot of American soldiers overseas drink beer from each. Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. There is a high level of hypocrisy there. When I was in the military, that was kind of a thing too. How were the different divisions going to handle people who are coming in the military at 18 and then going overseas? Can they drink? Can they not drink? I think my division, it was okay, but it was recommended that you don't, to prevent problems. But if you were, then, don't be stupid about it. Yep, fair. Meanwhile, in Mexico's likely approval of a law legalizing marijuana, possibly next month, could make it the world's most populated country to authorize cannabis for medical and recreational purposes. That would have a big impact on the United States, since some marijuana industry advocates, such as Mexico's former Vice President former President Vicente Fox say the country's expected passage of this law will push the Biden administration to legalize weed at the federal level in the United States. If only they can't find people to run the plastic factory either, because all the work for self-treats for medical issues is 420. Oh, interesting. Yeah, lack of healthcare also is a big deal. There's the level of stress that's caused by low minimum wages, people working shitty jobs for shitty pay, not having healthcare, not having decent places to live, get into the systemic and structural problems with capitalism in the United States and the resulting biopsychosocial results of that. Yeah, I don't want drugs in my life at all, but plus people use for. Yes, that's exactly right. Marijuana is an amazing plant. It's used for all sorts of amazing things. I don't use marijuana. It is. And it's also cheaper than the using pot, marijuana, whatever is cheaper than using any of the other stuff that they're going to give you. And it's also less addictive and less, other problems that they can cause. Definitely. And that's one of the reasons why they want to make sure that it doesn't get legalized, or at least have it take as long as possible, because I think some studies have shown that people who get onto marijuana end up getting rid of a whole bunch of drugs. So the pharmaceutical industry is going to lose billions of dollars when marijuana eventually does get legalized. It's going to replace so many things. So many things. So yeah, for me, I'm pro. It is stupid. It very much is. It is. So, and Alex, yeah, my policies are legalize everything, legalize and regulate everything. Basically, do kind of what the Nordic countries are doing, even to the point of having the places where people can shoot up with meth or whatever else. I mean, we save so many problems by legalizing everything and having safe places, needles and all that sort of stuff, and doctors on board to make sure that if they're going to do it and wreck their lives, that they do it safely. I really appreciate what some of the Nordic countries are doing that way, and that's basically the way we need to be doing it. It's huge. Portugal has had all drugs legal since like a decade or some shit like that. That's one of the first countries to have done it. Actually, that's not one word. All right, so I've mentioned this as a concept before, but I couldn't find an article on this. This is the it's a bladeless wind turbine. Here it's not legal, but it is not that you get in jail for using hard drugs. Dealing is a no-go. Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. Netherlands. Okay. See, I prefer to legalize everything and then deal with it from there. And then if you regulate regulate drugs, right? Then that, honestly, if you regulate the drugs, and that can help, you legalize it, regulate it, that helps to put, quote, dealers out of business. Or force them to go through the process of, getting licensed and all that sort of stuff. All right. So vortex bladeless wind turbines. Okay, there's a video. I found one or two videos on here, but they're in Italian. Soft drugs can be used legally, but it's officially illegal. Oh, okay. Okay, so not Netherlands then. Interesting. All right, so we'll take a look at this one really quickly. This is a minute long. It's about vortex bladeless wind turbines. It's an interesting concept. And let me know how the sound is on this. And you're back. Andrew. Yeah. Well, thanks for watching me in both places. I appreciate that. Yeah, there's a through IO.Restream, Restream, there is a 5-second delay. No, 15-second delay for all messages. That is one of the downsides to using Restream. Okay. I wonder if that pressure is from, honestly, the United States and the pressure that we've put on everyone to make sure that it stays legal. Illegal. Because we are just a bunch of imperialist pig dogs. Okay. Oh, yeah, here we are. Here's the... I wish they put the times on here. Oh, mostly from France? Oh, really? But I wonder if... Okay. I wonder how much, but I do wonder how much of an effect that the United States policy has upon France and the other countries in order to help make sure that it stays legal. I wonder how much, the United States has an effect on that. Be interesting to see. I haven't looked at all of these, so I don't know. Okay, this one I did see.
¿Habías oído hablar de ella? Esto es una turbina eólica y se ha convertido en la reina de las renovables, demostrando ser una excelente fuente de energía limpia. Sin embargo, no sirve para todas las ocasiones. No las querrías, por ejemplo, en rutas migratorias de aves, zonas protegidas o en zonas urbanas. Además, las grandes son caras de mantener y requieren de un sistema activo de orientación y frenado, al igual que sus versiones domésticas, que siguen teniendo un molesto mantenimiento. Por otro lado, su prima, la energía solar fotovoltaica, goza de unas ventajas que ya querría tener la eólica. Sin embargo, los paneles no funcionan de noche. ¿Y si pudiéramos crear un aerogenerador que evitara los problemas actuales de los molinos y además añadiera todas las ventajas de la solar? Pues esto es lo que estamos desarrollando en Vortex Bladeless. Mediante una línea de investigación innovadora hemos creado una máquina eólica que no gira mediante palas, sino que oscila. Nos basamos en el principio de vibraciones inducidas por vorticidad, una forma de obtener energía del viento radicalmente diferente, que da lugar a una máquina de interesantes características y que puede ser colocada en cualquier parte. Esta es sin duda una idea ambiciosa, y nos vendría muy bien tu ayuda. Visita vortexbladeless.com o búscanos en las redes e involúcrate en el proyecto. ¿Y tú? ¿Te unes a la revolución?
So there's kind of just an introduction to the bladeless wind turbines. They also have an efficiency one, which a comparison of their efficiency. So I found that really interesting. Efficiency. Okay. So they had an actual... They had an actual table. Actually, let's try this one here. There we go. Okay, so that's the basic one. And then here... Yeah. Okay. Well, what it showed is that the bladeless wind turbines work in slower speeds, like at 3 miles an hour or less. Whereas normal wind turbines couldn't generate energy at that level. And as you go up in wind speed, the other wind turbines do make more energy than the bladeless ones do. So it's kind of a a balance. They like it says, there's a lot of improvement that bladeless wind turbines have to make. Oh, that's not the one. Yeah. That's just another example of another type of turbine that we can use. Doesn't endanger animals. Oh, hey man, yeah, so I dropped my affiliate status so that I can stream on the different services. Yeah, so I do not have access to bits. I'm no longer an affiliate. Though if you want to support me, I've got my Patreon site. You can find that below in my description there. I do have Patreon. You can do it that way. So that's a bit more than quote bits worth of support. So that's there as well. There's also I still do have access to donations through Stream Elements. You can go that way as well. I created a new page on my blog, which kind of puts all that stuff together. If you want to take a look at that, you can check it here. All right. Now we've got some science. So y'all do all sorts of things here. Black holes may not be black or even holes. Their true nature could finally explain the origins of dark matter and fast radio bursts. This is from yesterday, actually. All right, what if black holes, those all-consuming gravitational behemoths of the cosmos, aren't actually black at all, or even holes for that matter? Instead, a new theory suggests black holes may be dark stars with hearts of extremely dense exotic matter. This could help explain one of the biggest mysteries of the universe, the origin and nature of dark matter. Bum, bum, bum. The universe is badass, let's explore it together. Black holes are real-life examples of Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity taken to the extreme. They're places in the universe where enormously dense amounts of matter stretch the fabric of space and time to its limit, forming an infinitely deep gravitational well that not even light can escape, hence the black hole name. Okay. I think most would find that the same as well. Scientists believe at the center of each black hole there lies an infinitely small and dense point called a singularity. Gravity is so strong at the singularity that it forms an event horizon surrounding it, where the pull of gravity surpasses even the speed of light. At infinitely small singularities, the laws of physics break down. That's when two seemingly opposing fields of physics, quantum mechanics, describing the super tiny, and general relativity, describing the very large, come face to face with each other. By studying the nature of black holes, researchers hope to combine the two fields into a unified theory of quantum gravity. The problem: singularity appears to be physically impossible because matter isn't capable of collapsing into an infinitely small point. But I am against racism, so I think that the white holes are just as good as black holes. Is that even a thing? Are white holes a thing? Sounds plausible, but I don't. White holes in space. Is that a thing? Were long thought to be a figment of general relativity born from the same equations. Okay, so that is a thing. Oh, God. What are you doing, dude? You're killing me, dog. Killing me. Physicists have cleverly dodged this issue by inventing their own singularity-free black holes, which they call dark stars. These imaginative creations appear like black holes on the outside, but inside they contain an extremely, but not infinitely, dense core of matter compressed to the tiniest possible scale. or a Planck core. It borrows its name from the incredibly small fundamental unit of measurement called the Planck length, which is on the order of 10 to the minus 35th meters, or roughly 1 trillion times smaller than a proton. Need to get a new hobby. Without a singularity at its center, a dark star could theoretically allow light to escape. White holes are a theory. I'm not sure if they really do what they say they do. Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe if you can find a good article on that. No, it makes sense. If you can find an article on that, I've got this one here. No, not deuterium. Oh my god, I guess I closed it down. We can take a look at that too. I'm kind of curious what exactly a white hole is. Without a singularity at its center, a dark star could theoretically allow light to escape its powerful gravitational grasp. Any light that would escape the black hole would be stretched like a slinky from the dark star's gravitational pull, an observable phenomenon scientists call redshift. In strong gravitational fields, dark stars behave interestingly. Physicist Igor Nikitin of Germany's Fraunhofer Institute of Scientific Algorithms and Computing writes in his new paper, which appears on the preprint server RXIV. First of all, the event horizon, typically for real black holes, is erased. Instead, a deep gravitational well is formed where the values of the redshift become enormously large. As a result, for an external observer, the star looks black, like a real black hole. If this phenomenon exists, Nikitin says it could help explain the true nature of dark matter. You might search that, but run the risk not only affiliates. I don't have affiliate status currently, so I think I'm okay there. Although, yeah, the other services might have a problem with it as well. According to Nikitin's research, if black holes contained Planck cores, they could be a potential source of dark matter. His study suggests dark stars could continuously emit a stream of particles in the form of dark matter, enough to explain the rapid rotation of stars around galaxies. One more fascinating possibility is that dark matter is composed of known particles placed in an unusual condition, Nikitin says. Particles could be as simple as particles of light, or photons, that have been redshifted to wavelengths that are so wide they would be virtually impossible to modern radio telescopes, he said. Virtually invisible to modern radio telescopes, he said. It is an extremely large wavelength, about 4 light days. Holy crap. 16 times the Sun-Pluto distance. That is a huge wavelength. It is an extremely large wavelength, about 4 light days, 16 times the Sun-Pluto distance. Holy crap. The energy of these photons would be exceedingly small, but they could be abundant enough in number to explain the unusual motion of stars around their galaxies. Nikitin also says his theory might explain another unsolved mystery of the cosmos, the origin of fast radio bursts, FRB. Astronomers first discovered these powerful short-lived bursts of radio waves in 2007, but their origin and nature remains hidden to scientists. If an object such as an asteroid fell into a Planck core, Nikitin says, a flash of high-energy light waves could be released. The dark star's powerful gravity would redshift the light, creating an apparent fast radio burst detectable on Earth. Although dark stars could help solve 2 of the universe's biggest mysteries, there is still an amount of observational evidence Nikitin's idea would need to replace the widely accepted theories of black hole. This theory does, however, show that out-of-the-box thinking can provide creative solutions to seemingly impossible problems. James, man, how you doing? I'm good. How you doing today? We did a bunch of COVID things. Now we're doing some science stuff. I was just asking that same question. Is it safe? I'm gonna trust you here. Are these are just these look like Glazer donuts or something like that. They're not white holes. What are you doing? What's your angle? Brown holes. Okay, it helps to read. Brown holes. Oh yes, these are tasty. I generally stay away from donuts, but if these are round, I'll definitely eat them. Brown holes. Okay, are brown holes in it? Okay, I'm not gonna search for that in stream. Let's see if that's actually a thing. What is a brown hole? Okay, doesn't seem to be a thing in astronomy. Okay, brown holes. Pictures of brown holes. Nice. All right, next. Okay, so we're all the way down here. What are we at? What time are we at? Hour 45. All right. So, but you get results on your query. I did nothing untoward. I didn't look too deeply, but mostly it has nothing. It's like with digging holes or something like that. So nothing untoward, fortunately. So I could be scarred for life. Now this article I've had up here for quite a while, but we haven't gotten to yet because we had other things we wanted to go to. St. Patrick's Day, will shits hit the fat temporarily. 2 active bombs were found by police. One had to be detonated by the army, and there was a stabbing. I don't know if it was related to paramilitaries, but it may be considering it was St. Patrick's Day. Also, a pipe bomb went off outside someone's house today. Oh my god. Looks like they have a strict filter. Oh, this is... I'm using io.restream.io's their stuff. I don't know if they have a I just got this stuff up and running kind of last night. Okay, chat app. Oh, wait, that's not what I want. Hold on. Hold on. I hadn't looked at how things were, how filters were working. One moment. I always move the filters to Google. Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way. But let's go. Okay, filtering. Okay, there doesn't seem to be any filters on here. Okay, so there doesn't seem to be any filters on there, at least. There may be some on Twitch. Twitch has filters. So maybe that's what it is. I do have my Twitch filters. I have Twitch filters basically turned off except for some things. You've been reading more conservative economics, by the way, interesting stuff. What is the most interesting thing you've found? Why is it interesting besides completely and totally enraging? The total lack of compassion or care for others. Arrgh. All right, so we'll go into this. To tackle inequality, we need to start talking about where wealth comes from. I have not read this one, I don't think. This is from the 13th. This is about a week ago almost. Do people in Britain resent the rich? Oh yeah, I did read it. Or I did read this at least a little bit. According to two new studies published this week, the answer to this question is not really. And that's something that radically needs to change. We need to loathe, revile, and, hold them, let them understand that they are horrible human beings. Now, to be fair, they're also victims of our broken system, which allows them to be a thing, but still, they should be shamed out of existence. To be harsh. The studies, one commissioned by Trust for London and another by Tax Justice UK, explore public attitudes towards wealth based on focus groups held across England. Both found that most people are relatively content with people getting rich, and that attacks on the wealthy are often viewed negatively. Yes, he's been spying on you. Got drones outside your place, following you to and from work, shopping and stuff like that. Nothing personal. This presents a dilemma for progressives. In recent years, left-wing leaders on both sides of the Atlantic have taken a more confrontational approach towards the super rich. In Britain, the Labour Party's war cry under the leadership of Jeremy Corbyn has been for the many, not the few. While in the US, Bernie Sanders has made no secret of his contempt for billionaires. But what if it turns out that ordinary people don't agree? Well, ordinary people are fucking wrong. One response to this dilemma, as outlined by Sonia Soda in The Observer, is to accept that the belief that Britain is a meritocracy is ingrained in our collective psyche, and adjust policies and narratives accordingly. Right, so this concept of a meritocracy is part of the propaganda that supports capitalism and the 1%, top 10% or whatever's claim to their riches. What is it, like carryover of the perceived religion? Yeah, it's something like that, right? It's kind of that Stockholm syndrome, right? Because, we've been so brainwashed into capitalism and that the rich people have just earned their money because they just work so much harder than everyone else, right? Yeah, exactly. It's that brain damage, and getting people beyond that and to understand that the people being wealthy like that is such a fucking problem. Just not from the inequality, not just from the inequality standpoint directly economically, but also from this fact that with people that have high levels of inequality, they become sociopathic, some even bordering on psychopathic, depending. That you're are also pretty rich, at least. Yeah, no, that is exactly right. And I keep in mind that you are also pretty rich, at least compared to the majority of the other people on this planet. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I do recognize as I've become more, as I've gone more into my journey as a progressive, I've come to realize and accept that I have a high level of privilege. I wrote about this. I wrote this somewhere. I'm a white. I'm male, I'm middle class, at least here in the United States, right? And I'm also an American. I've got so much privilege, it's not even funny, as like you're saying, especially compared to the second, third world and emerging markets. Most definitely. Well, right. No, but that's because I'm middle class. It's that inequality that comes from being above. Okay, so where are we going? Just a lot of studies on how high tax leads to lower growth. Kind of true, but I don't know. Exponential growth isn't a great thing. Also, a very interesting take on unions, where someone said unions will lead us to mass unemployment. As the basic laws of economics is, if you drive up prices, companies will make cuts and fire people in order to pay. Yeah, and all that stuff is, all those things are basically patently disproved by the actual facts. I mean, you actually pick up the studies that show otherwise, and what everything they're claiming is basically incorrect, and it's just fear mongering. And that's why it's hard for me to read any of that stuff, because it's so fucking incorrect and biased towards capitalists owning, controlling everything, and murdering people for fun and profit. It's enraging. It's all good, dog. Middle class in the U.S. and not in the world, right? Exactly, and see, and that is the fundamental problem. That middle class in the U.S. and I wouldn't even be middle class in Netherlands or even Nordic countries, right? I'd probably lower. Well, I'm actually kind of lower middle class here. About the survey on public opinion, I'd love to know where they did the survey. My experience living in England is that almost everyone I met wants socialism. Okay. Well, let's go. Okay, so here's. Well, I shared the article. You can might be able to find it here. Okay, so here's another link to it. There's some links there. You can take a look at it. Yeah, James, it's just the it just drives me nuts. If you can read those things and find the actual statistics that show that they're totally wrong. I mean, honestly, looking at the Nordic states pretty much shows that it's completely incorrect. Because how it tends to work is the South are pro-capitalist and the North pro-socialist. Right. And what you'll find most likely is that is driven basically based on inequality. Because the South, because it's mostly conservative, mostly rural, it has high levels of inequality, and therefore they're going to be pro-capitalist. And those in the North, where it's at least better off, is going to be pro-socialist. Because the high levels of inequality brings the brain damage, which has people supporting capitalism for some fucking stupid reason. We are all rich. Not everyone. Not everyone's rich. I know I'm not rich. And that's what I talk about in my policies, right? That if we really want to change things globally, we want to shift every single country in the world to first world status. North really isn't better off. We're just in the top 3 worst impoverished areas in Northern Europe. Well, comparatively. I'm actually referring to the United States, specifically, James. The North here in the United States tends to be better off than the South in the United States. So that was my perspective there. South of the United States is majority, Southerners, rural, Republican, and tends to be, suffering. And the North tends to be better off. Yeah. You mean the Dutch? You're all rich. Yes. Yeah, every single, Dutch person is doing very, very well because you guys have high levels of socialism. And all that money is spent to make your lives better. Like I said, I wouldn't be, middle class according to, the Nordic countries at all. I would be suffering horribly because I don't have all of that social support that you guys have and just showering your people with. Not fair. It's not fair, man. Soda is right to point out that this strategy is more likely to chime with people's existing attitudes towards wealth. As the authors of the Tax Justice UK report note, the participants in our focus groups largely believe in meritocracy. Delusional. Those with wealth were seen as having acquired it through hard work. Participants in the Trust for London research expressed similar views. But does this mean that progressives should accept the way things are and move on? Not necessarily. As a well-known philosopher once said, the philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it. Yeah, I would like to go to Alaska. Alaska is beautiful. Guess that inequality can feed in the whole lost cause shit and the whole after the Civil War. North done to us, what the Allies did to Germany afterwards. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's definitely some bitterness still there from the war, which is kind of stupid, honestly, because, ending after the Civil War, bitterness after the Civil War, right? Yep, Canada's nice as well, yep. I mean, they're definitely ahead of us as well. There's also, oh, God. How about South America? Is South America nice too? People's views aren't formed in a vacuum. They are shaped by social and political forces that evolve over time. Margaret Thatcher's neoliberal revolution wasn't just successful because it reorganized the economy. It was successful because it embedded a particular narrative about how wealth is created and distributed in society. This is a world where, so long as there is sufficient competition and free markets, every individual will receive their just rewards. in relation to their true contribution to society. Incorrect. That is the delusion that they sell. That may be what they sell, but that's not actually what happens. There is, in Milton Friedman's famous terms, no such thing as a free lunch. It's a world where businesses are the wealth creators who create jobs and drive innovation, and business owners are entitled to the financial rewards of success, regardless of how enormous they are. Yeah, South America is also nice. This is where I buy my amazing baking farm. Oh, okay. Interesting. It's all nice. It's all amazing. All amazing. Tony Blair's third way largely accepted this narrative of wealth creation, and until relatively recently, nobody in the mainstream of British politics challenged it. Is it really any wonder that most people believe it? Yeah, and it's of course the decades and decades of collusion with the media and the government and the corporations to help prop up the support of rich people and the corporations and make them basically deify them and have people worship them so that they are less inclined towards tearing the system down. Yes, Tony Blair, yes. Bush. Yeah, Bush is also likely, or is also a war criminal from that as well. Pretty much every single U.S. president is a war criminal and should be in jail. Every single one of them. The problem, of course, is that it bears little resemblance to how the economy actually works. Exactly. While it is true that working hard will generally help you earn more money, this causality doesn't hold in reverse. Not all wealth has been attained through hard work. In practice, the distribution of wealth has little to do with contribution, everything to do with the politics, with politics and power. You're very much in favor of making everybody rich instead of making everybody poor. Well, I would expect everyone would be for that. It's just a matter of what's that scale. If you want a good example of almost imperfect prime minister, look up Clement Attlee. He was so amazing. Okay. Not heard of him. Someone is born in the UK will earn more than someone born in sub-Saharan Africa, even if they perform exactly the same labor. Why? Because one was lucky enough to be born in a powerful country with a legacy of imperialism that has rigged the rules of the global economy in its favor. Exactly. That the economist Branko Milanovic has estimated that 60% of someone's income is determined by where they were born. Yes, geographical determinism is huge, and that geographical determinism isn't just what country, but also what family. It's winning the birth lottery, right? An additional 20% is determined by the income level of their parents. So they're doing geographic by socioeconomics, and then 20% by their family. Okay. This means that the place of birth and parental background accounts for 80% of someone's earning power on average. Okay, I can get with that. In the age of the self-made millionaire, the lottery of birth is more important than ever. As George Monbiot once said, if wealth was the inevitable result of hard work and enterprise, every woman in Africa would be a millionaire. True statement. He was after Winston Churchill, literally 2 months or so after World War II. He voted Churchill out and elected a socialist, Attlee. Oh, okay. Okay, interesting. Within countries, extreme fortunes almost always derive from control over a scarce resource, fossil fuels, minerals, land, monopoly networks, money, etc. To the early classical economists, this kind of wealth, attained by simply being a gatekeeper to a scarce resource, was deemed to be unearned and referred to it as economic rent. But today, the Sunday Times rich list is dominated by rentiers, financiers, real estate tycoons, oil barons, monopolists, and aristocrats, many of whom acquired their original fortune in somewhat questionable circumstances. They all did under questionable circumstances. He was pro-LGBT. Okay, that's cool. Oh, a long time ago, he was pro-LGBT. Awesome. Yes, world happiness wasn't... okay. Yeah, because all you fuckers over there in the Nordic countries are always at the top of it. So just go bite me. So Finland holds the rank of the happiest country in the world for the third consecutive year. Denmark, Switzerland, Iceland, yep. Norway, yep. Okay, so where the hell's Netherlands? You guys should be in the top 10 at least. Basically started the dissolution of the British Empire. Okay, awesome. Sounds cool. You're also pro. I'm also very pro LGBT, as you guys all know. You're on the Atlee vibes. You do you, boo. Well, where are the? Oh, they don't actually have the list here. They should point. Okay, here's 20. Okay, here's 2020. All right, Netherlands, you're number 6. Sweden, yeah, you guys are always in the top 5. Iceland is also. Switzerland, yep. The U.S. we're down here at 18, not even top 10. Yep, happiness report. And honestly, this is the sort of stuff we should be looking at. You know, as a country, the United States should be looking at, okay, happiness indexes, quality of life indexes. I mean, pretty much all we look at is the stock market and GDP, and that's it. And that's, when you look at people who talk about, well, how do we change things? This is one of the things we need to be looking at. Happiness indexes. And that's how our taxes and how much the pay that our well, yeah, because you guys are in Europe. Europe is so far ahead of us. I mean, I'm amazed that France is below us, that Spain is below us. I'm amazed any European country is below us. That I find shocking. Shocking. That, yeah, so instead of operating off, we've had a lot of socialist prime ministers looking back. Oh, cool. That, yes, we need to stop looking at GDP and the stock market when it's determining how well the country is doing and look at poverty, income inequality, in the environment, pollution, and that sort of a thing. I haven't explicitly integrated something like this into my policies. I'm not as overtly, but it is a kind of a part of the economies for a common good sort of a thing. I think if I get the time, eventually I want to go in there and add more to it, kind of adding this sort of things to it as a part of the economies for the common good sort of a thing. Okay, where to go? Hold on. Did I close it down? I think I closed it down. All right, one moment. I gotta open this back up. All right, there we go. Quote from Dutch EU Parliament member: France is a very nice place. It's only a shame the French live there. Yeah, well, from the standpoint of an American, I've heard that they're fairly rude, at least to Americans. But yeah, interesting. All right, where do we go back? All right, here we go. But it's not just billionaires that accumulate wealth without working. Over a third of all the income in Britain is paid out as capital income, dividends, rents, and interest, rather than labor income, wages, and salaries. Capital income is inherently passive, doesn't correspond to work or skill, but ownership. And while capital ownership is distributed extremely unequally, in recent decades, changes to pensions and housing market have enabled many middle-class households to join the capital income gravy train and accumulate wealth without lifting a finger. He made friends when he said that? Bet you made some friends and definitely had some people unfriend him too. As I've written about before, since 1995, 3/4 of all wealth accumulated in the UK, totaling $5 trillion, has come from rising house prices. The driving force behind rising house prices has been rising land prices. But land is not a source of wealth, but of economic rent. The truth is that most wealth made through the housing market has been gained at the expense of others who are now seeing more of their incomes eaten up by higher rents and larger mortgage payments. The housing boom is not an example of wealth creation, but wealth redistribution on an unprecedented scale. Then there is inheritance. Around $100 billion of wealth is passed on to new owners every year without any corresponding productive activity, much of it escaping any tax. Yeah, so a lot of this is why I'm pro high minimum wage, low maximum wage, right? Because that will help. And 100% marginal tax rate at the maximum wage. So those three things alone will pretty much moderate the cost of living to between those two hard barriers, right? So $75,000 minimum wage, $675,000 maximum wage. So that is where all of the all prices will fall in between there. But with the 100% marginal tax rate at $675,000, the actual take home is $250,000. So it's only really a ×3 difference in income inequality. And then all the prices for everything will change between there. And then if you get into taking the income derived from passive sources and turn that into something that's taxable, that will radically redistribute wealth in an amazing way. Does 100% marginal tax rate at $600,000 mean that no one can make? Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Originally in my policies, I had at $675,000 a 99% marginal tax rate. So that after $675,000, the tax rate was 99% for anything above that. So if you paid $10 million, an extra $10 million, you can make an extra $100,000 for income. So taking that income from $250,000 to $350,000 per year take home. I read the book, The Case for Maximum Wage. It was pretty thin. It was like 124 pages. And it made a decent case for having the marginal tax rate at 100%. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So then I changed my policies based on that. And I have here's my policies here. And I have a spreadsheet there which you can find. And here's kind of the way it plays out. I do use progressive basic income. So is that income also for money in the bank? I think that is what I say. That's one way to help deal with the wealth issue. Let me. I do say everything else, so that would include everything else. I do also have progressive net wealth tax as well, and inheritance taxes. So I think ultimately when you gain any sort of income, it all goes into this, and then it gets taxed this way. So if you're already making $100,000 a year and you gain an inheritance of $100,000, it'll be taxed up here as proper income. Okay, man, see you. Have a great weekend. I'll be here tomorrow too. Stay safe. I don't know if I have it specifically put in that way. Yeah, okay, so follow the standard income progressive tax rate. Okay, so that is. And then I have a net wealth tax as well to help reduce the to reduce that faster. Yes, inheritance is a huge problem. We have to deal with that. Overall, the proportion of wealth in Britain that can truly be ascribed to hard work, however loosely defined, is infinitesimally small. The idea that Britain is a meritocracy, however appealing, is objectively false. And we shouldn't be afraid to say so. But it's hardly surprising that many people believe Britain is a meritocracy when the Thatcherite narrative has gone unchallenged for decades. If the left is to achieve its historic aim of achieving distributive justice, it can't do so by parroting a narrative on wealth that was designed to promote the cause of Thatcherism. Instead, we must develop a distinct and compelling narrative about how wealth is really created and distributed in society. This means recognizing that wealth creation is a collective process involving many different interdependent, see there's that key word, interdependent, stakeholders, workers, the government, the natural environment, civil society, and yes, entrepreneurs. It means highlighting how the mechanism linking contribution and reward for each of these stakeholders is fundamentally broken. Workers are paid less than their value they create. Owners are appropriating wealth they didn't create. Vast profits are being made by destroying our ecosystem, and the role of the state in wealth creation is undervalued. And it means proposing new mechanisms for distributing financial rewards that more accurately reflect the collective nature of wealth creation and rebalance power between capital and labor. Crucially, it also means you get all kinds of social benefits if you are an employee, but if you are an employer, you don't have many of those benefits. So people who have a shop save money for their pension, so when people sell their shop, they make it up with more than with more than $1 million, but they need that to provide for a normal income. So are you saying that people who own businesses get less from the government, as in not necessarily healthcare? Or what exactly constitutes that less? Okay, so you don't. Explain. How much less? Okay, so that was kind of shocking for me. So yeah, what is the less that they receive? Hello, how you doing? Okay, so you have to provide for your own pension. Okay. Inzafire, how you doing today? Welcome. I'm good. Got a nice ruckus crowd here today. Talking about income inequality, the delusion of a meritocracy. Talked about COVID, talked about black holes, talked about all sorts of crazy stuff. And Anaholics here is from the Netherlands saying that business owners don't get as much as the normal people, the workers do. So I'm kind of curious on what that means. You also don't get a social security net when you get bankrupt. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, that's pretty crazy. Interesting. What else? There's got to be more. And it's fine. I don't know if you're new here, but I blog about politics. Here's my blog. And I also have my own policy site. You are new here. Okay. I have my own policy site here too as well. If I look at that, I've got whole bunch of progressive stuff there, and I'm also running for school board here as well. You get just the minimal to not starve to death, but other people get 70%. Oh, okay. So unemployment is what you're referring to there. Okay. Interesting. So, in as far, do you consider yourself progressive, leftist, Democrat, Republican, green, cucumber? Identify as a green primarily, but I do consider my policies a bit more left than green. But that's just me. Progressive? Okay, cool. Welcome to my castle. Crazy. So what else, Analogs? What else did they not get? And those are fairly big things. You're Belgium? Okay, we've got someone else here from Belgium. I don't know if they're here today. Elias was here earlier. He's from Belgium. So cool. How you doing in Belgium? People who have a shop or other small business, they save a lot of money so they can provide for them. Okay. So they expect business owners to be more responsible and to put stuff in savings. They expect business owners to do all their saving instead of the government doing it for them. Okay. I think that's reasonable. So instead of the business owners taking a larger portion, stealing the benefits of the labor, right? And ensuring that if they do become a business owner, taking the excess labor, that they invest it appropriately or they, suffer. Interesting. Crucially, it also means challenging the idea that rising asset prices, Britain's favorite form of wealth, constitutes wealth creation. As John Stuart Mill wrote back in 1848, if some of us grow rich in our sleep, where do we think this wealth is coming from? It doesn't materialize out of thin air. It doesn't come without costing someone, another human being. It comes from the fruits of others' labors, which they don't receive. So if you say 100% taxes on more than $500,000, then they have a problem. Okay, sure. Within the context of your country, sure, of course. Now, although we do provide, my policies do progressive basic income, right? So in my policies, none of you would necessarily be suffering because you get progressive basic income, and universal healthcare, universal education. I don't have universal housing in there yet, or necessarily universal internet, but that's something I need to kind of figure out. Housing issue is a big deal. I don't know how to solve that. Yet. The 4% rule for unemployment, is that what you're referring to? No, that's 2%. 2% for unemployment, I think. I don't remember. What's the 4% rule? For gaining money. Oh, you mean to deal with inflation? Is that what you're referring to? Inflation compensation? Or the average amount of interest on investments? American study done over a large period. What is it referring to? Inflation, interest on investments. Is music not playing? Oh, it is. Okay. This isn't just about winning a technical argument, it's also about winning at the ballot box. Both pieces of research published this week found that although most people view wealth accumulation in a positive light, they hold a much more negative view of wealth that has not been earned through hard work or skill. As the Trust for London report notes, those who were thought to have achieved their status and financial position through hard work were deemed to be deserving of it. By comparison, those deemed to have not had to work hard were viewed less favorably. Okay, fair. Where people's wealth comes from matters. If people can be persuaded that Britain isn't quite as meritocratic as it's made out to be, public attitudes towards wealth can be shifted in a more progressive direction. Indeed, the authors of the Trust for London report conclude that if policymakers wish to address inequality, they may do better to think in terms of narratives of how riches are acquired. These narratives won't change overnight, but they won't change at all unless progressives fight to change them, just as Margaret Thatcher did in the 1980s. This doesn't mean criticizing people's natural desire to earn more money or attacking successful business owners who treat their employees and the environment well, but it does mean drawing attention to the fossil fuel executives who are enriching themselves by destroying the planet, the bankers who cashed in on the crisis they caused, the aristocrats who live off their ancestors' ill-gotten gains, and the exploitative bosses who underpay their staff. In politics, you can either shape the world or be shaped by it. On this issue, there is no middle ground. So, okay, so if you have an amount of money and you invest that in a stock, then you get 4% of that fortune. You can get 4% of that fortune out without running out of money. Okay. So, but that assumes that you get a 4% return on investment, because otherwise, if there's no return, if there's a 4% return on investment, you can take that out. But if there isn't a return on investment at all, then obviously that won't. That's not going to be a thing. So if $1 million, then you safely provide for $40,000 as income without running out within 30 years. Okay. Interesting. Good to know. Good to know.
Social distance. Whenever I think of
hold on.
Whenever I think of the Girl Scouts.
Hold the fuck on. All right, what are we at here? We are at 2.5 hours. All right. Half an hour more. I think they researched that from 1926 to 1905, so that included world wars. Oh, okay, interesting. So yeah, a decent return on investment, I would expect. I mean, if your return on investment, well, see, that is interesting because the inflation rate goes from like 3 to 5%. And then if you have, so that's loss in purchasing power, not loss in actual money. So if you're, yeah, okay. Okay, so all right. That will be it's like 1.2 million, right? They do correct for inflation. Okay. If you have a link to that study, throw it in here. I'll take a look at it. I'm curious now. Got me curious. All right. So next, we've got this video. This is from. This is Redacted Tonight. We watched a video from them a few days ago, I think. This is about the Girl Scouts and their palm oil problem. Let's take a look.
Whenever I think of the Girl Scouts,
let me know if you can hear it okay.
Leadership, empowerment, community service, entrepreneurship. I'm sorry. I'm fucking with you. I just think of the cookies. And unless you live in a state that could give two shits about social distancing, those cookies could be harder to get a hold of than a federal minimum wage increase, which we're all going to need to afford $5 a box cookies. But if the cost wasn't prohibitive, then a recent Associated Press investigation just gave you an even better reason to avoid them like the plague. Because according to the AP, child labor in the palm oil industry is tied to Girl Scout cookies. And I'm honestly shocked. I would never associate rampant child abuse with the Girl Scouts. I associate that with the Boy Scouts.
Boom.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised that the treats known for child labor in order to sell them use child labor in order to make them. But in case you're one of millions of Americans who thought palm oil was the sweat that builds on your hands in the grocery store when you make eye contact with someone who bullied you in middle school, it's important to know that palm oil is actually a vegetable oil that's guaranteed to be in most products in almost any aisle you hide behind to escape your former classmate. Palm oil is contained in roughly half the products on supermarket shelves and in almost 3 out of every 4 cosmetic brands. And for many children who live in Southeast Asian countries like Malaysia and Indonesia, which supply 85% of the world's palm oil, their families' livelihoods are tied to them abandoning school to work grueling hours on palm oil plantations for barely any
This is
money.
horrific.
Also, they can collect palm kernels that are later crushed to create the oil found in products like Kit Kats, Oreos, Cap'n Crunch, and Pop-Tarts. Which kind of makes you want to slap the shit out of the kid in that toaster strudel commercial who hid a stack of Pop-Tarts his mom gave him in his locker while his friend was smuggling him strudels like they were bricks of cocaine. The concerns over palm oil and Girl Scout cookies is nothing new. Over a decade ago, 2 Girl Scouts in Michigan sounded the alarm out of concerns for its links to deforestation and the destruction of the habitats of orangutans, Asian elephants, and Sumatran tigers. And considering palm oil is found in a gazillion other things like kid cereals, I don't think kids are ready for ironic fun facts on their boxes of Frosted Flakes that say, "We killed 400 tigers to make your breakfast great!" The Michigan Girl Scouts sounding the alarm prompted the Girl Scouts of America to partner with the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, a consortium of social advocacy groups, environmental groups, and industry whose mission is to have more sustainably sourced palm oil. As a result, we began to see cookie boxes with the RSPO seal, attesting that whatever you shoved down your gullet or lathered your body with was ethically sourced. But according to environmental advocates, industry has way more sway in the RSPO than it should.
As always.
And that much was evident when a Girl Scout from Tennessee named Olivia Chafin recently told the AP she discovered the RSPO labels on her boxes included the word mixed, which means sustainable palm oil was mixed with unsustainable sources linked to child labor, meaning as little as 1% of the palm oil might be certified sustainable. They know how percentages work, right? Like, if the average American received an Ancestry.com result that said they're 1% Ashkenazi Jewish, they're not gonna lead a Passover Seder the first chance they get, especially when they find out how much reading is involved. Naturally, many companies were quick to issue cookie-cutter statements saying they reaffirmed their commitment to sustainability, such as Ferrero and Weston Foods, which are the parent companies of the bakeries that make Girl Scout cookies. And there's even this statement: "We aim to prevent and address the issue of child labor wherever it occurs in our supply chain," said Nestle, maker of Kit Kat candy bars. I'm sorry. Nestle? The same Nestle that's facing a child slavery lawsuit? If Nestle says it aims to prevent child labor, then its aim is on par with a drunk uncle holding a huge lawn dart. Plus, any corporate statement rings especially hollow given workers said they have to go into hiding when sustainability auditors do visit these plantations. They said only the optimal, easiest to reach parts of a plantation are typically showcased, with poor living and working conditions in distant areas hidden from outside eyes. And even if we forget for a second that the words plantation, optimal, and easiest to reach are magnetic words on Satan's fridge, it's harder to forget that many of these corporations are banking on us never figuring out what they're doing. And when we get closer to the truth, they create meaningless labels that even preteens know are bullshit. And I know I'm ruining Girl Scout cookies for you, but living in ignorance is causing other people across the world to live in despair. So I think we can all agree no child's life should be sacrificed for a sweet treat. Except Violet Beauregard's. She had it coming. And honestly, these cookies would benefit from less palm oil and more blueberries. Reporting from a Girl Scout leadership facility, this is Natalie McGill for Redacted Tonight.
There you go, more joy from capitalism. Go away. What did I do? All right, I'll take a look at this. Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. All right. So how much time do we have left? We've got half an hour yet. We still have some time yet. Okay. Over here. All right. So now I've got a bunch of stuff here on environmental stuff. Now we've read an article on this before, but I'd like to go and read something on this again because it is important and it's really a part of my policies as well. All right, man. Thank you so much. Have a great night, and maybe we'll see you tomorrow. All right. So this is from The Economist. This is for February. So a little less than a month ago. Is it time for ecocide to become an international crime? A growing movement wants destruction of the environment to be treated like genocide and crimes against humanity. That is how my policies do approach this. I talk about that in here. We have crimes against humanity as a thing at The Hague. And we should be doing that for crimes against the environment as well, because without the environment, there is, well, no place for humanity to live. At the Nuremberg trials, which began on November 20th, 1945, Allied forces prosecuted leading Nazis for atrocities committed during the Holocaust and the Second World War. Among the charges against them was something which, just 4 years earlier, Winston Churchill had called a crime without a name: genocide, the deliberate destruction of a group of people. The term and a convention against it was then formally adopted by the United Nations. Half a century later, it became one of just 4 crimes punishable by the International Criminal Court, along with crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crimes of aggression. Now, there's a push to name another concept as an international crime: destruction of the ecosystem and the environment, also known as ecocide. In November last year, come on. In November last year, a group of international lawyers set about formally defining ecocide. The panel, which is co-chaired by Philippe Sands, a lawyer who has appeared before the ICC and the European Court of Justice and wrote a book about bringing the Nazis to justice, and Dior Falso, a former UN international prosecutor, will publish its draft definition in June. After that, they hope it will be proposed and eventually adopted as an amendment to the Rome Statute, which governs the work of the ICC. If it is, ecocide will be susceptible to all the frustrations and limitations that plague efforts to halt other international crimes, but it could also mark a turning point in how the relationship between humans and the natural world is understood. Environmental damage might be curtailed through international criminal law is not a new idea. Some scholars have seized upon the fact that the UN Genocide Convention prohibits deliberately inflicting on the group attacked conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction. They argue this could include the devastation of the ecosystems on which the group relies. In 1972, at the UN Environment Conference in Stockholm, Olof Palme, the then Prime Minister of Sweden, accused the American government of ecocide over its use of Agent Orange, a herbicide used to defoliate forests and wither crops in Vietnam, leaving vast tracts of land barren. Early drafts of the Rome Statute include crimes of severe environmental damage, but these were ultimately not adopted, apart from a slim provision under war crimes which prohibits environmental modification techniques, like Agent Orange, that have widespread, long-lasting, or severe effects. The subsequent campaign to have ecocide adopted as an international crime was chiefly the work of Polly Higgins, a barrister and activist who died in 2019. In 2010, Higgins lobbied the UN Law Commission to make ecocide, which she defined as the extensive destruction, damage to, or loss of ecosystems of a given territory, a fifth crime against peace. Though it refused, the ICC subsequently agreed to examine cases of environmental destruction as crimes against humanity, provided they had sufficient deleterious impact on people living in the area. Earlier this year, such a case was submitted to The Hague by indigenous leaders against Jair Bolsonaro, Brazil's president, over deforestation in the Amazon. The ICC is considering it. Higgins also co-founded the Stop Ecocide Foundation, an NGO which has continued to advocate since her death for the recognition of ecocide as an international crime, and which convened the legal panel currently drafting the definition. All the crimes overseen by the ICC focus on the protections of humans. Most attempts to include environmental damage in international criminal law have been similarly anthropocentric, tying the status of ecosystems to the benefit they confer to people that rely on them for homes, livelihoods, or for food. Mr. Sands thinks that ecocide should be defined by the need to protect the environment as an end itself. This would require it to have its own freestanding basis as a new crime, rather than being slotted under existing ones. Though he does not speak for the group, whose decision must be made collectively, Mr. Sands is hopeful that others might feel similarly. My sense is that there is a broad recognition that the old anthropocentric assumptions may well have to be cast aside if justice is truly to be done in the environment given a fair degree of protection, he says. Yep, so as a part of that, there is, I added this to my policies, the philosophical foundations, the Universal Declaration of the Rights of Mother Earth. And that pretty much is what that says. The natural world has a right to exist on its own and doesn't, and should be protected just because it exists. Hopefully they've taken, they've included that into that somewhere. Any amendments to the Rome Statute must be proposed by one of the countries that signed it, then approved by 2/3 of the others. Vanuatu and the Maldives, both low-lying archipelagic countries greatly threatened by climate change, have expressed interest in putting forward such an amendment. France and Belgium have promised diplomatic support. Mr. Sands believes that the world's growing environmental consciousness and public pressure on politicians will see other countries follow suit. But the required consensus is elusive. Of course, the United States is going to be a big, big part of the antagonism towards finding that consensus. Because if you support the environment, you have to be fairly anti-capitalistic. Just in order for capitalism to exist broadly, especially in the unrestrained form that we have here in the United States, you basically cannot have environmental protection because unlimited or infinite growth, infinite consumption requires the abject destruction of the environmental world, of the environment to support it. Even if the notion of ecocide is ultimately adopted by the ICC, so what? International criminal law serves mostly as a backstop, as an imperfect one at that. Though countries often change their domestic laws to match global accords, in many instances governments simply delete provisions they dislike. Saudi Arabia, for example, ratified the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women in 2001, but refused to accept rules that contradicted Sharia. Some states simply refused to sign up at all. Neither China nor America is party to the Rome Statute. Of course not, because why the fuck would they? Decades of treaties condemning genocide and the UN stipulations that countries must intervene to stop it have not prevented it occurring, even when a crime is defined as such by the United Nations. Witness the fate of the Rohingyas in Myanmar, but supporters argued that naming international crimes helps set norms for acceptable behavior. International court cases also create lasting records of wrongdoing and perpetrators of the illusion of impunity. For the Nuremberg trials, Mr. Sands points out countries were entirely free to treat their own citizens as they wished. If they wanted to kill half the population, they could do that, he says. And that changed in an instant. So yes, they definitely need to do this. They need to make crimes against nature as a thing in an international court. And this needs to be done aggressively, because without this, humanity is going extinct, and I'm not overly keen on that possibility, if you know what I mean. Existing is kind of important. I have a daughter, so, humanity existing is kind of important to me. All right. Next, environmental post. We're going back to Texas, because everything is bigger in Texas, right? This is from March 12th, so about a week ago. All right, let's, there's this video here. It's about a minute and a half. We'll watch this really quickly. Okay, here we go. Oh, let me go ahead and read this. At least 3.8 million fish were killed on the Texas coast during the February winter storms. The fish kill consisted of at least 61 species. All right, here we go. Oh, actually, I think I have this muted too. Let's unmute this. Nope.
Extra fishy out on the island this week. It could be this.
Let me know if you can hear it.
Thousands of dead fish. Well, not that. There you go. They've all been piling up in nearby canals, all part of the aftermath of last week's winter storm. North Padre Island residents came together this week to get it all cleaned up, and our Alexis Green spoke with some of those residents.
All of these people have been here for several days.
Lindsay Bertram, who has only been a North Padre Island resident for a year, says when her neighborhood needed the extra hands, she and her family didn't hesitate to bust out the nets and gloves. Residents became concerned after thousands of fish began surfacing on the beach and most recently canals following last week's historic winter storm, leaving a sight for sore eyes and a smell that you get the picture. Marvin Jones is the president of the Padre Island Property Owners Association. He says with the help from volunteers, they were able to collect well over 100 trash bags full of the dead fish, each bag weighing about 50 pounds, leading to an estimated total of 6,000 pounds of fish. Officials with Texas Parks and Wildlife say this fish kill is the worst they have seen in 100 years. Jones said in a Facebook post that he is thankful for the volunteers who continue to work on the cleanup effort.
We love the community, and we want to be a part, and you can't just be a part of the community when it's fun. You have to be a part of the community when it's hard.
Jones asked that if you see fish surfacing near you, to put them in a sturdy trash bag and leave it on your curb. Call 361-949-7025, and the PIPOA will pick it up from you. Lexus Green, 3 News.
Yikes. All right, pause. Actually, let's just do this. Let's just mute it so I don't have to worry about it. Okay, so a small video on it. Austin, Texas, winter weather. The week of February 14th, 2021 led to fish kill events on the entire Texas coast, according to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. If fish do not make it to a refuge in deeper, more temperature-stable water during cold weather, they may die when the temperature reaches a certain threshold. After the first fish kill was reported in the lower Laguna Madre, Texas Parks and Wildlife biologists began the process of assessing kills across multiple bay systems on the coast. An estimated minimum of 3.8 million fish were killed on the Texas coast during the February 21st freezing event. The fish killed consisted of at least 61 species. Non-recreational species contributed to 91% of the total mortality in numbers of fish. This includes species like silver perch, hardhead catfish, pinfish, bay anchovy, and striped mullet. While not sought after by most anglers, non-game fish are ecologically important, providing food for larger game fish as well as adding to the overall diversity of Texas bays. Recreationally important game species accounted for the other 9% of the total. Of that 9%, the dominant species included spotted sea trout, black drum, sheep's head, sand sea trout, red drum, gray snapper, and red snapper. Both upper and lower Laguna Madre Bay systems were hit particularly hard by this event. The lower Laguna Madre had the highest mortality of spotted sea trout with an estimated 104,000 fish killed. This comprised 65% of the total estimated spotted sea trout killed, and when combined with the upper Laguna Madre, it comprised 89% of the total estimated spotted sea trout mortality along the Texas coast. Similarly, the upper Laguna Madre had experienced black drum mortality at an estimated 82,600 fish, and comprised 78% of the coastwide black drum killed. Fishy situation, yes, very fishy. How you doing today? You and me. Yeah, it's talking about the Texas freeze and all the fish that have been dying on the coast. This is not the first freeze to occur in Texas coastal waters. Multiple freeze events during the 1980s killed almost 32 million fish, with the most severe impacts being on the lower coast. Okay, and this one was how many? Oh, 3.8 million. Okay, so it's not the worst. Okay, so it's like 10% of the worst. All right. While the February 2021 event impacted a large area of the Texas coast, the overall number of fish killed in this event appears to be lower than any of the 3 freeze events in the 80s. Okay. Using history as a guide, we believe our fishery has the potential to bounce back fairly quickly as it did after the 1980s freeze event. Based on our long-term monitoring, we saw the recovery in terms of numbers of spotted sea trout bounce back in approximately 2 to 3 years. This does not mean the fish size and age structures were the same as pre-freeze, but the overall numbers did return in that time frame, said Robin Reichers, Coastal Fisheries Division Director. Now, however, the spotted sea trout mortality in the combined upper and lower Laguna Madres is comparable to the events of the 1980s. Now, the question is, with climate change happening, are we going to keep having more of these freezes? Because if we keep having more of these freezes, that is going to be very difficult to come back from on a large scale. Below is a breakdown of each event in the 1980s. Okay, December 83, 14.4 million fish killed within a geographic extent of the entire coast. February 89, 11.3 million fish killed with a geographic extent of the East Matagorda Bay south to the lower Laguna Madre. December 89, 6.2 million fish killed within a geographic extent of the entire coast. Okay, so that's 25, it's like, 32 million for the entire year. Okay. So our year is just getting started, so we could, no, it's just the 80s completely. So 83, 89, a whole bunch, like 17.5 million just in 89 alone. The February 2021 freeze event appears to have been larger than any other fish kill events seen since the 80s, including those in the 90s and the 2000s. The 1997 freeze event saw 328,000 fish killed, but had a significantly higher percentage of game species killed, 56%, than in 2021. While some areas of the coast and some species of fish were clearly impacted more than others, overall this is the worst freeze related to coastal fish kill we have experienced since the 80s. There are some important lessons from those historical events that we need to draw upon as we work to accelerate the recovery of our fish stocks, particularly speckled trout along the mid and lower coast, said Carter Smith, executive director of TPWD. The most obvious and immediate one for the speckled trout is conservation, a practice where every Texas coastal angler can make a contribution right now. Practicing catch and release and or keeping fewer fish to take home in areas like Laguna Madre will only give us that many more fish to rebuild from as we augment populations through our hatchery efforts, and we carefully evaluate what regulation changes may be needed to foster quicker recovery for our bays. Assessments for large geographic fish kills occur using a phased approach. The first phase is determining the geographic extent and distribution of fish. This is achieved through observations from staff, state, and local partners, as well as the public. Rapid assessments to determine the rough estimates of the number of fish killed as well as species impacted are completed. Next, how much more is this? Okay, we're almost done. Next, TPWD. Coastal teams are assigned sampling areas and staff count, measure, and record each individual fish present in an area. By following American Fisheries Society guidelines for sampling in this manner, a summary can then be completed for each bay system along with a coast-wide assessment. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Cares. Okay, there we go. That's the thing. Yeah, so we just wonder if this is going to keep happening because of climate change. They said basically every decade at least one happens or something like that. But I imagine that's going to, it's going to accelerate, and we're going to keep harming, with the freezes happening, at least in those areas, combined with the rising rising water temperatures plus the rising acidity. I think the fish kills are going to become much more prevalent in the next few decades, which is going to be bad. Super bad. All right, so we've about reached our 3-hour mark. So I'll give you guys a chance to leave any last-minute comments on anything that you're thinking about before we call this a day. We got our 3-hour mark. So anything you want, anything at all. What am I doing today? I don't know what I'm doing today. I think the wife's gonna be gone almost all day, so I'll be home with the child all day. So we have to probably gonna finish the WandaVision. We've gotten through 4 of those. I think we have 5 more episodes of that. Then Falcon and Winter Soldier came out today, so I think we might get to starting that. If not, we'll start it this weekend, I think. So I'm kind of excited about that. This WandaVision thing is pretty cool. Yes. Anything else? Anyone? Any last comments? I know there's basically one person left watching. DC or Marvel? I'm more of a Marvel guy, but the stuff we've been watching on for DC on Netflix has been really good. Like Jessica Jones was amazing. Oh my God. Daredevil was amazing. Black Lightning was really good too, actually. The other 2 were just okay. But yeah, I'm basically Marvel preferably, but there's a lot of good stuff here in DC on TV. We've watched The Flash on TV, which is really good, through Netflix. Supergirl was really good too. But I'm generally Marvel, but DC's been doing some pretty good stuff on TV too. Like perhaps my favorite DC movie was Black Panther. Black Panther was amazeballs. And then on DC though, Wonder Woman, the original Wonder Woman was really great, and the Aquaman movie was actually really pretty good too. Although the Justice League and the Superman versus Batman things, those were kind of disappointing. And I didn't even watch. I have not yet. No, I'm kind of curious to see what that is. There's a lot of press around that. Have you seen it? Isn't it only on HBO though? If I could watch it on Netflix or something like that, that would be cool. I'm a bit torn because the original, the one with, Justice League wasn't all that good. Which is the one with the Superman versus Batman, right? Wasn't at all impressed with it. Yeah, I saw you. Okay. Did you like it? Was it better than the other one? Isn't it like almost 4 hours long or something crazy like that? It's supposed to be really long. It's better, but 4 hours long. Okay. So better, but not like super good, super gooderer than the other one. But isn't just a recut of the Justice League movie that's just longer? Or is it something completely different? I thought it was just a recut of the previous movie. The story's more coherent? Oh, okay. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that's a lot of time to sit and watch a movie. Like Interreflections by Peter Joseph, which is it's kind of an avant-garde movie talking about capitalism, that sort of stuff. Peter Joseph is the guy who wrote the book the New Human Rights Movement, which I talk about all the time. That is like 3.5 hours long, and I've watched it the first time. It was amazing. And I want to watch it again, and it's difficult to put that much time together to watch one movie. So I want to watch it again, but oh my god, was it worth the almost 4 hours? Was it worth it? Is that time you're never gonna get back? It was worth it? Okay. Okay. All right. May have to look at trying to watch it then, I guess. But it's only on HBO though. I can get HBO through Amazon. I did HBO just for Game of Thrones. Maybe I'll have to at least maybe purchase the movie through them, or just get a month of HBO or something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I have no idea what movies have been even coming out. A second. And all this year, I mean, I have no idea if there were any movies that have come out. I know a lot of movies have been delayed because of COVID and stuff like that, but I have no idea what's been coming out. Need to find out, because I got to see what movies are out there, because there's some good stuff that should have been coming out. So lost. All right. So, any other comments? Last minute comments before we call it a day? Going once. I've got Dungeons and Dragons this weekend. We're starting a new campaign, a water-based one. I am playing a lizard folk druid. Do I have Letterboxd? I do not. I'm assuming that's a movie service thing, right? Track films you watch, save those you want to see, tell your friend what's good. Oh, okay. Raya. Mm-hmm. So, movie rating site. Okay. I have not. First time I have heard of it. Fourth hours. Okay. All right, so this says the first hour actually made me appreciate what Snyder was going for. The second and third hours reaffirmed just how misguided it was for anyone to make a Justice League movie without setting up the Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman first. The fourth hour is the superhero movie fan service equivalent of the Fox from Antichrist eating itself alive in real time when chaos reigns, it pours. Yeah, and that was kind of one of my complaints about that movie, is that you've got these people who you have no idea who they are. As a part of that, like, I have no idea who Cyborg is. I've watched The Flash on Netflix, so I know who he was. And Supergirl, of course, I knew as well from that. But Cyborg, no idea. And they just didn't set set things up well for this, which I really annoyed me. Okay, I'll take a look at this. I'll take a look at it. All right, so last call for comments. And we'll call it a day until tomorrow. Oh, DC only for Batman. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, lately their movies are just and it saddens me. Their series are really good. I've enjoyed their series pretty well. But not the movie so much, which is sad. All right. Well, Quiet Mercenary, have a great day, and I'll be on again tomorrow at about 3 o'clock U.S. Central, and yeah, we'll have more stuff to go over. So, yep, have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys later. Thanks all.
Now it's just me and you. Let's make up all the